Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
That's right, seeing the two women's surprised yet enlightened expressions. Lovey nodded readily, I am indeed a god. There's really no point in hiding this, even if they told others no one would believe them anyway. Even if some people actually believed it, not many idiots would come looking for trouble with Luo Wei. Do you really think Luo Wei wouldn't kill someone? Upon hearing Lo Wei acknowledge her identity, Yatsuya Miko fell into deep thought, considering whether she should become Lo Wei's priestess, as this matter concerned her life's most important thing. Once you become a priestess, you may be destined to serve Lovey for the rest of your life. She didn't know how to make a decision for a moment. Seeing this, Luo Wei didn't press the matter and said, if you're unwilling to make a decision, you can go to the Yin-Yang Bureau. You possess the highest level of Yin-Yang eyes, making you an invaluable asset to them. They can definitely protect you. Think about it yourself. After saying that, Luo Wei withdrew the power he had given to Yurikawa, and Yurikawa lost the ability to see evil spirits. This might not be a bad thing for her. Afterwards, Luo Wei bid farewell to the two girls, left the rooftop, and returned to the classroom. When Ritsute Naka saw Luo Wei return, she could no longer contain her curiosity and asked, Hey, Luo Wei, what's your relationship with those two girls from earlier? Could they be your friends who cook for you? Seeing her gossipy look, Luo Wei gave her a light tap on the head. Shut up. Just as Ritsute Naka was about to say something, the school bell rang and the teacher pushed open the door and walked in. Left with no other choice, Ritsute Naka had to put aside her gossip and focus on her lessons. She didn't want to daydream in class and get caught by the teacher. Time flies, and it's time to get out of school again. Just as Ritsute Naka was about to continue gossiping, Mio Akiyama pulled her away. Bored, Luo Wei was about to leave the school to wander around and explore what other strange things had been stitched together in this world. As a result, they were blocked at the school gate by Yurikawa Hana and Yatsuya Miko. When Yatsuya Miko saw Lovey, she took a deep breath and said, I've made up my mind. I want to become a shrine maiden. Are you sure? Yatsuya Miko nodded and said in a low voice, please. Lovey didn't know why Yatsuya Miko made such a decision, but since she had agreed to be his shrine maiden, he wouldn't push her away. After all, he really did crave her body. All right, come with me. Can I go too? Yurikawa asked. What, you want to be my priestess too? Ro teased. Yurikawa clasped her hands together and pleaded, please, I don't want to be separated from Miko. Then let's all come together. Luo Wei smiled, then led the two girls away from the school to a nearby deserted park. The park is called the Park for Losers, as if it's mocking something. Luo Wei felt like he had seen this park somewhere before, but he couldn't quite place it. After entering the park, Luo Wei found a secluded corner and spoke to the two women. Since you have made your decision, from this moment on, you will be my priestesses. Reach out your hands and I will give you strength. Yurikawa Hana and Yatsuya Miko exchanged a glance and simultaneously extended their hands. Lovey grasped the two soft hands and channeled the power of light into the two women's bodies. Like Irina Nakiri and others, she also possesses 10,000 points of light power. After Yurikawa Hana obtained this power, she became no different from Nakiri, Irina, and the others, transforming into a superhuman with the power of light. Luo Wei's main focus was on Yatsuya Miko. Having the highest level of yin-yang eyes, what changes will occur after she gains extraordinary power? When a powerful force of light appeared within Yatsuya Miko's body, her golden eyes burst forth with dazzling light as she absorbed a large amount of this light and underwent a transformation. Upon seeing this, Luo Wei chuckled. Just as I guessed, things did change. Yatsuya Miko is an ordinary person. Perhaps the highest level of yin-yang eyes can only see ghosts. But what if Yatsuya Miko isn't an ordinary person? Would her ability to see ghosts change, gaining abilities beyond just seeing ghosts? Now, the changes in his yin-yang eyes have confirmed Luo Wei's guess. The highest level of yin-yang eyes is indeed capable of more than just seeing evil spirits. The reason why they can only see ghosts but not exorcise demons is clearly because Yatsuya Miko, an ordinary person, is holding back the ability to see ghosts. Once Yatsuya Miko filled this gap, the true power of the yin-yang eyes was revealed. At the same time, as her yin-yang eyes underwent a transformation, Yatsuya Miko seemed to see something strange, and her face turned extremely pale. I was trembling all over and tears were about to fall. Yurikawa Hana noticed Yatsuya Miko's unusual behavior immediately and quickly hugged her in her arms. See you, what happened to you? My lord god, what happened to Jianzi? Why has he become like this? Luo Wei guessed, it must be that the yin-yang eyes have mutated, allowing Yatsuya Miko to see some things that we can't see. It's okay, it'll be fine in a while. Yurikawa Hana froze for a moment, then hugged Yatsuya Miko tightly, her face full of worry. After a while, the light in Yatsuya Miko's eyes finally disappeared. She came to her senses and suddenly burst into tears. How scary, Zaya Ohua, it's really scary. Yurikawa Hana could only hug Yatsuya Miko and keep comforting her. It's okay, I'm right here, it's really okay. After Luo Wei and Yatsuya Miko calmed down, they asked curiously, what did you just see? Yatsuya Miko said, trembling, my lord god, I have seen a very terrifying future. A terrifying future? Luo Wei stroked his chin and said, it should be future vision. I didn't expect that the highest level of yin-yang eyes would actually have the effect of seeing the future. Of course, it is also possible that the mutation occurred after coming into contact with one's own power of light. However, what intrigued Luo Wei even more was what kind of future Yatsuya Miko had seen that had frightened her so much, so Luo Wei asked her about it. It's zombies, endless zombies. Upon hearing Luo Wei's question, Yatsuya Miko stammered, number. Soon, a horrifying anomaly will occur in Tokoname City near Tokyo, where large numbers of humans will turn into zombies and attack living people everywhere. Although the government intervened immediately, the zombies were mutating far too fast. 1 month later, Tokyo fell. 6 months later, the entire country of Japan had fallen. A biohazard outbreak occurred in Tokoname City, Tokyo fell a month later, and Neon fell 6 months later. This is somewhat unbelievable. To be honest, Lo Wei didn't find the Resident Evil incident at all unbelievable. After all, this world is a patchwork of too many strange things, with Bedmaster City, Raccoon City, and even Umbrella Corporation, so it's not surprising that a biohazard outbreak occurred. In Lo's view, it would be strange if a biohazard crisis didn't break out. However, the fact that Tokyo fell within a month and Japan within 6 months seems somewhat unbelievable, because this world has stitched together far too many things. Demons and monsters are everywhere. Even these things didn't make Japan fall, so why should a mere Resident Evil make Japan fall? Do you really think those top-tier onmyoji don't exist? Or perhaps those demons and monsters don't exist? Putting everything else aside, just considering the monsters alone, they wouldn't allow Japan to fall, because the relationship between monsters and humans is one of mutual generation and restraint, and many monsters are man-eaters. Many monsters are born out of human fear. Therefore, in Luo Wei's view, it was simply unbelievable that the Resident Evil crisis led to the fall of Japan. Not to mention, I'm still here. Could it be that Yatsuya Miko is seeing a false future? Luo Wei was completely baffled. Are you sure that in the future you see the entire territory of Japan has fallen? Luo Wei asked. Yatsuya Miko nodded. I saw it clearly. And what about me? Ro asked. Didn't I do anything in this disaster? Although Luo Wei is not Japanese, he wouldn't just watch Japan fall and become a zombie paradise. After all, if this place had become a zombie abode, why would he still be having so much fun here? Yatsuya Miko was taken aback, then recalled the future she had seen, and her expression became strange. I didn't see you. Yatsuya Miko said, in the future I see many unfamiliar people have appeared and given their lives to fight against the mutated zombies, but Lord Lovey, you don't seem to exist. At least after Japan fell, I never saw you and what? Ro continued to ask. Yatsuya Miko said, in the future I seem to be an ordinary person, and Zaya Ohua is just an ordinary person, not your priestess, Lord Luo Wei. Luo Wei vaguely understood, you mean you saw a future where I don't exist? Yatsuya Miko nodded. Yurikawa looked completely bewildered and said, a future where Lord Lovey doesn't exist, but isn't Lord Lovey right here? Luo Wei squinted and said, I think I understand now, the future of a certain parallel world. Yatsuya Miko was taken aback, is that so? Yurikawa Hana exclaimed in sudden realization, so it's the future of a parallel world. That's amazing. Miko, you can actually see the future of a parallel world, how did you do that? Miko Yatsuya couldn't quite put her finger on it for a moment. That's how I did it. It's just like eating and drinking, right? Ro explained. Yatsuya Miko nodded. That's right, exactly. She felt that she could see the future of parallel worlds whenever she wanted, a power granted to her by the most advanced yin-yang eyes. Yurikawa Hana said, is the future of a parallel world really that bad? After hearing this, Yatsuya Miko hesitated for a moment and said to Lo Wei, Lord Lo Wei, I always feel that the future I see is not the future of a parallel world, but the future of this world. Are you sure? Ro asked. Yatsuya Miko shook her head. I'm not quite sure, I just have a vague feeling about it. Yurikawa said, this isn't right, Miko. If you're seeing the future of this world, why don't you see the adult in the future? Besides, we're not adult priestesses, isn't that a contradiction? Yatsuya Miko nodded. This was also what she found contradictory. That's why she wasn't sure if what she was seeing was the future of the world. Looking at the hesitant Yatsuya Miko, a thought suddenly flashed through Luo Wei's mind, and he had a conjecture. Perhaps what Yatsuya Miko saw was the original future of this world. That is, the future in which I did not travel to this world. Because they didn't travel to this world, Yatsuya Miko and Yurikawa Hana are just ordinary people, which aligns with the future Yatsuya Miko foresaw. But Lo still couldn't be sure how a mere biohazard crisis could have caused this world's neon lights to fall. After all, this is a chaotic world of crossover anime and manga. Could it be that I underestimated this biohazard crisis? Gianzi, I'm asking you, when did the biohazard crisis in Bedhouse City break out, and were there any special signs before it broke out? Recalling the future she had envisioned, Yatsuya Miko slowly said, based on my observations, the biohazard crisis in Tokoname City will erupt in a week. There were no warning signs before it broke out. This crisis erupted suddenly. After the outbreak, the entire city of Bedmaster was thrown into chaos. A large number of people lost control of themselves and turned into zombies, attacking others everywhere. Shortly after the zombie outbreak, the government intervened immediately and dispatched a large number of troops to seal off the city of Bedrock. No zombies are allowed to leave Bedhouse City. Then, a large number of onmyoji and exorcists entered the city of Tokoname to eliminate the zombies. For a period of time initially, the zombie outbreak in Bedmaster City was indeed contained. But soon after, some onmyoji and exorcists were infected with the virus, lost their minds, and turned into zombies. These zombies are extremely destructive. After breaking through the blockade, zombies began to appear in Tokyo one after another. Although this special group of zombies was quickly eliminated, the mutated virus began to spread. Soon afterward, even the legendary monsters were infected by the virus and began attacking humans everywhere. A month later, Tokyo was completely overrun, the virus was out of control, and it spread to all parts of the country. 6 months later, Japan was completely overrun and became a zombie abode. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei's eyelids twitched several times. That's interesting, really interesting. It wasn't just ordinary people who were infected with the virus and turned into zombies. Even onmyoji, exorcists, and yakai are not exempt. They can also be infected. This reminded Luo Wei of the Marvel Zombies universe. In this universe, even superheroes and gods have been infected by the zombie virus and turned into super zombies. It even eventually spread throughout the entire universe. Luo Wei was certain that the biochemical viruses in this world were not yet that terrifying. It can infect the entire universe. However, it should not be underestimated, since even extraordinary beings like onmyoji, exorcists, and yakai can be infected, which is somewhat unbelievable. Clearly, this is not an ordinary biochemical virus. I underestimated this chaotic and terrible world. It's truly hard to imagine that such a virus could be born. But thinking about it carefully, given how chaotic the world is, it's not surprising that such a virus could emerge from it. God knows what these viruses are made of. Luo Wei then asked, Gianzi, in the future you see besides Japan have similar crises occurred in other parts of the world? Yatsuya Miko shook her head. No, only Japan has it, kindness. Lo keenly sensed something was amiss. It was only found in Japan, not anywhere else in the world. No matter how you look at it, this seems very strange. Could it be that some organization or mastermind is using Japan as a guinea pig? If that's the case, then who are this organization and the mastermind behind it? The first suspect that popped into Luo Wei's mind was the infamous Umbrella Corporation. These are what are known as protective umbrella companies. There's no way around it. When it comes to creating Resident Evil-themed content, this company is absolutely the most professional. Moreover, there happens to be a branch of this group in Tokyo. The fact that the first biohazard outbreak occurred in Tokoname City, the closest city to Tokyo, is just too much of a coincidence. Perhaps I should go and take a look at this branch office. Luo Wei's eyes flickered and he made a decision in his heart. All right, I understand. Luo Wei waved his hand and comforted Yatsuya Miko and Yurikawa Hana. It's just a small accident. You two go back first, I'll take care of this little matter. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Tatsuki Academy, Irina Nakiri is preparing a fish in her kitchen. Suddenly, the secretary walked in from outside. Young miss, you've come at the right time, Hisako. I'm planning to make a pan-fried tender fish for Lord Lovey tonight. You can help me out, Irina Nakiri said without looking up. Instead of acting immediately, the secretary said, Young lady, a girl named Siko Busujima has come to the outside of Tatsuki Academy and wants to see you. See me. Irina Nakiri raised her head and said indifferently, I've never heard of Siko Busujima before. Could she be another third-rate chef who overestimates himself and wants me to taste his cooking? Not see. She's busy making dinner for Ro right now, so she doesn't have time to see anyone unimportant. The secretary hesitated for a moment before saying, Miss, this Siko Busujima doesn't seem to be a chef, but rather the heir to a kendo dojo. Huh. Irina Nakiri stopped what she was doing. What did this kendo dojo heir, who had nothing to do with her, want with her? It would be understandable if he were the heir to a restaurant or hotel. But why would the heir to a kendo dojo want to talk to a cook like me? Do you intend to cook for some dojo yourself? That shouldn't be the case. Just then the secretary continued, Miss, this Siko Busujima is very special. She seems to know your secret. Secret? What secret? Irina Nakiri asked. The secretary said, she knows about the existence of gourmet cells. Irina Nakiri was taken aback. Only 3 people know about gourmet cell, herself, Hisako, and Lo Wei. Lo Wei knew about the existence of gourmet cells because it was related to his identity. Hisako knew that she had told her herself. So how did Siko Busujima, who has absolutely no connection to him, know this? Could it be that she also entered the culinary secret realm? But I don't think I've ever seen this woman in the gourmet secret realm. Irina Nakiri immediately became interested, but she didn't put down her work and said to her secretary, let her in. I want to see who this Siko Busujima is. The secretary nodded and turned to leave the kitchen. A moment later, the secretary led in a spirited young woman. Irina Nakiri looked up at the girl. On the surface, she appeared to be a woman who resembled a Yamato Neidshiko ideal Japanese woman. It seems there's no connection between him and the successor of the Kendo Dojo. Her figure is also top-notch, even better than mine. Her figure was already considered excellent among her peers, but Siko Busujima's figure was subtly superior to hers. It's unbelievable and incomprehensible. However, when she saw Siko Busujima's gaze, she was immediately startled by those sharp eyes. Siko Busujima's gaze was like a drawn blade, incredibly sharp. If you weren't careful, you'd be sliced in two. Irina Nakiri found it hard to imagine how a woman who resembled a Yamato Neidshiko could have such a sharp gaze. At that moment, she became extremely interested in the girl named Siko Busujima. Siko Busujima, right? Tell me, how did you find out about gourmet cells? When Siko Busujima heard Irina Nakiri ask the question, she took a deep breath and slowly said, if I told you that you told me about the gourmet cells yourself, would you believe me? Huh. Irina Nakiri couldn't help but give her a are you kidding me? Look. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't know you at all and I've never even met you before. How could I possibly tell you something like this? Siko Busujima broke into a smile that instantly shattered her image as a young, demure Yamato Neidshiko. She transformed from a gentle woman into a deadly demon. I'm not lying, Commander-in-Chief. You did tell me about the food cells yourself. But not now, but in a future where human life is as cheap as ants and demons and zombies roam freely. Irina Nakiri's eyes flickered as she looked at Siko Busujima in surprise. He seemed shocked by her words. What do you mean? The secretary asked urgently. What do you mean by saying that human life is as cheap as ants and that demons and zombies roam freely? What nonsense are you spouting? Siko Busujima calmly stated, I'm not talking nonsense, I'm talking about the real future. Irina Nakiri raised an eyebrow. You mean you can see the future? No, to be precise, I came back from the future just 1 day ago, Siko Busujima said earnestly. Let's rewind to 1 day ago. Tokoname City, Fujimi Private Academy. As the captain of the Kendo Club, Siko Busujima, as always, comes to the Kendo Club after school to practice Kendo and give pointers to her juniors. After finishing her work at the Kendo Club, Siko Busujima took a shower to wash away the sweat and left the school. On the way home, I vaguely sensed that someone was following me, but Siko Busujima was not afraid at all. Instead, she gripped the wooden sword in her hand and walked into a secluded path. No one saw the glint of excitement, agitation, and even bloodlust in her eyes as she entered the path. Shortly after, another figure followed Siko Busujima in. He was a middle-aged, overworked office worker. He followed closely behind Siko Busujima, and taking advantage of the fact that no one was around, he quickly closed the distance between himself and Siko Busujima. Siko Busujima stopped and glanced back at the middle-aged office worker. Uncle, what are you doing following me? The middle-aged office worker didn't say anything, but instead stared greedily at every inch of Siko Busujima's skin. This gave Siko Busujima a very strange feeling. It was as if the man in front of her was yearning for her body. But this desire has nothing to do with sexual desire between men and women. It is related to appetite. She noticed that the way the man looked at her wasn't like he was looking at a beautiful, mature woman, but more like he was looking at a delicious steak or a freshly roasted chicken. That's not how a man looks at a woman. That's how humans look at food. In an instant, Siko Busujima became alert, realizing that the guy in front of her was different from those other lecherous and lustful men she had encountered before. Thinking of this, Siko Busujima subconsciously drew her wooden sword and pointed it at the man in front of her. The middle-aged office worker couldn't help but laugh when he saw the wooden sword in Siko Busujima's hand, his mocking expression undisguised. Immediately afterwards, he rushed toward Siko Busujima at an astonishing speed. So fast. Siko Busujima hadn't expected the man to be so fast, like a black man in a 100-meter dash, no, even faster than a black man in a 100-meter dash. It sprinted towards him in the blink of an eye. But at this moment, Siko Busujima's swordsmanship, honed through countless trials, finally came in handy. The body acted before the brain, and with a sudden thrust of the wooden knife, it aimed for the throat of the middle-aged office worker. Bump. This move precisely struck at the throat of middle-aged office workers. The throat is the most vulnerable part of a human body. Even though Siko Busujima's weapon was a wooden sword, the angle and force with which she thrust it into a human's throat were remarkable. Enough to shatter this vulnerable part and send it to hell. Under normal circumstances, Siko Busujima would not kill people because this is a civilized society. She was unwilling to sacrifice her beautiful life for a middle-aged office worker. But for some reason, this time, the pressure of being a middle-aged office worker brought her an unprecedented amount of pressure. And under this pressure, she did not hesitate to launch a ruthless attack. But the next second, something astonishing and unbelievable happened. Although her wooden sword pierced the throat of the middle-aged office worker, it failed to shatter his throat. They couldn't even get the other party to take a step back. The middle-aged office worker's throat felt like it was made of iron. The wooden sword not only failed to repel the opponent, but was instead squeezed and twisted, then shattered, turning into a sky full of wood chips. Then the middle-aged office worker grabbed Siko Busujima by the neck and lifted her up. He uttered his first words after meeting Siko Busujima. "I'm starting to eat." The next second, he opened his blood-red maw and bit into Siko Busujima's shoulder, tearing a large chunk of flesh from her body. The intense pain caused Siko Busujima to involuntarily let out a heart-wrenching scream. But the middle-aged office worker felt incredibly relieved and his eyes turned blood-red. Seeing this, Siko Busujima finally remembered. There is a special urban legend in Japan. Legend has it that in Japan there is a special kind of monster called ghouls. These monsters are just like humans, but they cannot eat human food. Their only food source is humans. Siko Busujima always thought it was an urban legend, but she never imagined that ghouls actually existed and that she would actually encounter one. Without a doubt, she will die. They will die at the hands of this ghoul and become its food. Worry, fear, dread. In an instant, the shadow of death, like an invisible hand, gripped her heart, making it impossible for her to breathe. When fear reaches a certain level, Siko Busujima's pupils contracted violently to the size of pinholes. My brain was subjected to a strong stimulus, and a strange hallucination appeared before my eyes. Zombies, endless zombies. She foresaw the zombie crisis that would erupt in Tokoname City a few days later, the fall of Tokyo, the fall of neon lights, the fall of the Onmyoji, and the fall of the demons. Countless demons have turned into zombies, roaming the land of Japan. This orderly and civilized society has been transformed into a living hell. She struggled to survive time and time again during this upheaval, only to be defeated time and time again, ultimately dying at the hands of a powerful demonic zombie. Interestingly, when she opened her eyes again, she saw a tiny ghoul treating her as food. Siko Busujima was no stranger to this scene, because she has already gone through it once. Just as she was about to become the ghoul's meal, several people tracking the ghoul arrived, chased the ghoul away, rescued her, and took her to the hospital. This also allowed her to avoid the zombie crisis that broke out in Bedhouse City at the first opportunity. This time, however, Siko Busujima has no intention of letting anyone rescue her. In that brutal apocalypse, she killed countless demons and zombies. A mere ghoul was nothing in her eyes. It's not worth mentioning at all. At the same time, the ghoul who was enjoying his meal suddenly stopped. The ghouls could clearly sense that the atmosphere had changed. The food that had been screaming just moments before suddenly stopped screaming and instead looked at me with a strange expression. It was as if I were looking at ants on the roadside or bedbugs that I could crush at any moment. This infuriated him, because he had seen that look in the eyes of many people, especially the flock of white doves that kept chasing after him. It's one thing for them to look down on themselves, but now they're even looking down on a piece of food. This is utterly upside down. Then he grinned menacingly. He had decided to eat the other person piece by piece, to let the food taste the pain of being eaten bit by bit. However, at that moment, the food raised a hand and lashed out at its head like a whip. It was so fast that he didn't even have time to react. Bump, that hand slapped itself hard across the face. The enormous shock, like a landslide or a tsunami, caused him to lose control and drop the food in his hand. He was sent flying like a cannonball, crashing into the wall with a thud. For a moment I felt dizzy and weak in my limbs. The ghoul could hardly believe it. How could a mere human unleash such power? It even blasted itself away. Is this even human? When did humanity acquire such power? If she had that kind of power, why didn't she just knock herself away instead of having a piece of her flesh bit off? What happened? What exactly happened? The ghouls were confused. On the other hand, after Siko Busujima knocked the ghoul away, she fell to the ground and quickly got up. She looked down at her right hand. Although she had tried to use skill in that strike, her right hand was still inevitably swollen, and the bone seemed to have a slight crack. There was no other way. She had just been reborn from the future to this point in time, and her body had not yet been strengthened. The power unleashed by using the Wu clan's liberation technique was too much for my body to handle. However, all of these are within tolerable limits. Siko Busujima began to change her breathing, ripple breathing technique. This was an extraordinary skill she learned from the commander-in-chief she followed in a future where human life was as cheap as an ant. By simply changing your breathing, you can do many incredible things. As Siko Busujima breathed, the blood on her shoulder stopped flowing, and the wound even began to scab over at a visible speed. The swelling in my right hand began to subside, and the minor bone fracture began to heal. Liberation 50%. This is the limit that Siko Busujima can withstand. If she exceeds this limit, her body will inevitably break down, and even ripple breathing will not be able to save her. But for a ghoul, that's enough. The next second, Siko Busujima rushed towards the ghoul with astonishing speed. Before the ghoul could react, she grabbed its neck with one hand and twisted it forcefully. Click! Siko Busujima snapped the ghoul's neck instantly, twisting it 720 degrees. After swaying a few times, he collapsed to the ground with a thud. Even a ghoul with incredible vitality would surely die from such an injury. Then, Siko Busujima left before the hunters arrived. Let's go back to the present, inside the gourmet workshop at Tatsuki Academy. Siko Busujima told Irina Nakiri everything about her rebirth, including the zombie outbreak and the fall of Japan. The reason he told Irina Nakiri was because of this person in front of him who was the same age as him. He once turned the tide during that massive natural disaster, protecting many people single-handedly, including herself. He even taught her many skills, including but not limited to the liberation of the Wu clan, Ripple Qigong, and so on. Therefore, Siko Busujima had a natural trust in Irina Nakiri. That's why, on the very first day after her rebirth, she sought out Irina Nakiri and told her about the horrific ordeal she would face in the future. Make sure the other party is fully prepared. After listening to Siko Busujima's story, Irina Nakiri and her secretary exchanged a glance, both seeing deep disbelief and incredulity in each other's eyes. Resident Evil neon lights fall, reborn, and returned. No matter how you look at it, this seems like a story from a novel. Are you sure what you're saying is true? Irina Nakiri couldn't help but ask. Siko Busujima solemnly stated, although it sounds incredibly unbelievable, I can assure you that everything I've said is true and not a single word is a lie. Irina Nakiri frowned and asked, why are you telling me something so important? Because you are my commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief? Siko Busujima nodded. In the future I've experienced, although Japan has fallen, humanity hasn't been wiped out. Several large powers are rooted in Japan, constantly fighting against this natural disaster. An attempt to fight against demons and zombies and restore humanity's glory. Commander-in-chief, you are one of them. Me, are you sure? Irina Nakiri was somewhat surprised. Could she really do something like that? Siko Busujima nodded. In the face of future crises, Commander-in-Chief, you somehow produced a large amount of food, feeding hundreds of thousands of people. These foods contain powerful energy. After eating them, many people have awakened their culinary cells and gained great power. I am one of them. That's why we're able to use Tatsuki Academy as our base and help each other with Mahora Academy, Academy City, the Onmyo Bureau, and other forces to fight this crisis. Upon hearing Siko Busujima's words, Irina Nakiri immediately snapped out of her daze. It must be a hidden culinary paradise. Only in the gourmet realm can one find an abundance of food, enough to feed hundreds of thousands of humans, and even awaken the gourmet cells in more humans, making them even stronger. My future self has found a way to bring food back from culinary secrets. I just don't know how I did it. But then again, where is Lord Lovey? Why did Siko Busujima never mention Lord Lo's existence after she spoke of the future? This made Irina Nakiri very curious. With Lord Lovey's strength, dealing with this crisis shouldn't be too difficult. Why did Siko Busujima remain silent about this? Irina Nakiri couldn't help but ask, where is Lord Lovey? You've said so much, why don't you talk about Lord Lovey? Didn't Lord Lovey take any action during this crisis? Siko Busujima was taken aback, then asked, Love, who is that? Irina Nakiri's eyelids twitched and she stared intently at Siko Busujima. You don't know Lord Luo Wei? Siko Busujima shook her head and said, I've never heard of Lo Wei before, Commander-in-Chief. Irina Nakiri gave Siko Busujima a deep look and chuckled softly. Commander-in-Chief, Siko Busujima suddenly noticed a change in Irina Nakiri's gaze. Irina Nakiri breathed a sigh of relief. You almost scared me just now, I thought what you said was true. Siko Busujima. What's going on? Why does Irina Nakiri suddenly not believe me? Everything she said is true. Commander-in-Chief, I didn't lie to you. Irina Nakiri said with a cold laugh, I admit you have a good way with words. What you said just now sounded so real that even I almost believed it. Although I don't know where you got the information about the existence of gourmet cells, you have revealed a flaw. Siko Busujima was completely bewildered and didn't understand. Irina Nakiri said, your biggest weakness is that you don't know Lord Lovey. If what you said is true, and if you really become my subordinate in the future, then you will definitely know Lord Lovey. This is your biggest weakness. Siko Busujima was dumbfounded. So who exactly is this Lo Wei and why does the Commander-in-Chief change when he mentions him? Commander-in-Chief, enough. Irina Nakiri snorted coldly, interrupting Siko Busujima. I have no interest in listening to your nonsense. Hisako, see her off. I still need to make dinner for Lord Lovey. What a waste of my time, so boring. After saying that, Irina Nakiri gave Siko Busujima no further chance to explain and turned to leave. The secretary sighed and said to the dumbfounded Siko Busujima, please leave here, Ms. Busujima. Siko Busujima watched Irina Nakiri's departing figure, then slowly stood up from the sofa and, escorted by her secretary, left Tatsuki Academy. As she stepped out of Tatsuki Academy, she suddenly asked, Lady Shirato, who exactly is this Lovey that the Commander-in-Chief mentioned? She realized that the reason the Commander-in-Chief didn't believe her was entirely because of this Lord Luo Wei. Therefore, she had to find out exactly who this Lord Luo Wei was. To be honest, the secretary didn't quite believe Siko Busujima's words either, but perhaps Siko Busujima's gaze was too sincere. She hesitated for a moment but still revealed Luo Wei's identity. Lord Luo Wei is the deity that Miss and I worship. Huh? Siko Busujima was stunned. A god. She had never heard of the Commander-in-Chief and Hisako Shinto believing in a god, and even if the two of them were truly believers in this god, why did the two of them never mention the name Luo Wei in the future? More importantly, if gods really exist, why would Japan fall to the Japanese in the future? Siko Busujima's eyes flickered, and she suddenly realized what was happening. Could it be that the Commander-in-Chief and Hisako Shinto have been deceived by this guy named Lovey? Afterwards, a zombie outbreak occurred, and the conman was exposed by the Commander-in-Chief and Lord Shinto. That's why the two of them never mentioned this matter again, because this is their dark history. Siko Busujima became increasingly convinced that she was right. If gods truly existed, why didn't she see a single one descend to save humanity after Japan fell to the Japanese? Therefore, gods and spirits are absolutely a lie. However, she couldn't just tell the Commander-in-Chief and Hisako Shinto so bluntly. Judging from their expressions, they seemed to have complete faith in Luo Wei, this swindler. She had to find an opportunity to expose this fraudster and make the Commander-in-Chief and Hisako Shinto believe in her. At this point, there were still a few days before the biohazard outbreak. She must find Ro as soon as possible and expose this fraudster. Siko Busujima took a deep breath and said to her secretary, Lady Shirato, may I pay my respects to this deity? Perhaps he can prove that what I said is true. The secretary was taken aback and then wanted to refuse. But Siko Busujima suddenly knelt down and performed a doja, a traditional Japanese kneeling posture, towards her secretary. Please, Lord Shinto, this concerns the safety of hundreds of millions of people. Please allow me to pay a visit to this deity. The secretary was shocked. She hadn't expected Siko Busujima to kneel down in front of her, especially when you hear that this matter concerns the safety of hundreds of millions of people. The secretary, realizing the seriousness of the matter, finally agreed. I understand. I'll inform Lord Luo Wei right away. After saying this, she put her hands together and began to pray, Lord Lo, can you hear me? At the same time. Luo Wei had just parted ways with Yatsuya Miko and Yurikawa Hana. After learning from Yatsuya Miko that a biohazard crisis would break out in Japan in the future, he planned to go to the Tokyo branch of the Umbrella Corporation. However, on his way to the Tokyo branch of the Umbrella Corporation, he suddenly heard his secretary praying. I'm here, is there anything I can help you with? Luo Wei continued on his way while entertaining guests. The secretary glanced at Siko Busujima, who was bowing deeply, and told Luo Wei about her existence and her rebirth. The more Luo Wei listened, the brighter his eyes became. He had just heard about the disaster from Yatsuya Miko when Irina Nakiri met a survivor who had personally experienced it. What's this? When the time is right, heaven and earth lend their strength. Wait here, I'll be right there. Luo Wei glanced at the Umbrella Corporation's Tokyo branch, which was just a stone's throw away, then turned and left. Anyway, the company is here and no one can move it. Perhaps we should go and meet this reborn person first. Maybe we can hear more details about this disaster from her. Not long after, Luo Wei arrived at Tatsuki Academy. As soon as I reached the main entrance, I saw the secretary, who had been waiting for a long time, and Siko Busujima. So he took a serious look at Siko Busujima. She was pretty much as he remembered her. She looked like a typical Japanese woman, but her eyes were unusually sharp and fierce. It's even sharper than in the original story. Siko Busujima now is like a sharp blade drawn from its sheath. Even the slightest touch will result in a cut. On the other hand, while Lo Wei was sizing up Siko Busujima was also sizing up Lo Wei. Is this the deity worshipped by the Commander-in-Chief and Hisako Aragaki? No matter how you look at him, he seems like an ordinary man without any divine airs. He really is a fraud. She had to expose this guy here and remind the Commander-in-Chief and Hisako Shinodo in time to make them believe her. We must be fully prepared before this disaster strikes. This time, we absolutely cannot repeat the same mistakes. Thinking of this, Siko Busujima stepped forward a few paces. Are you Lord Lo Wei? Read books during the Spring Festival, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Luo Wei always felt that Siko Busujima was a bit strange. Although her tone was gentle, the way she looked at me was like a knife. He could rush up and punch me at any moment. What's going on? Luo Wei was completely puzzled. Could it be that he had offended her? But the problem was that the two of them had never met before. Why would Siko Busujima be so hostile towards him? Luo Wei was very curious and asked bluntly, we don't think we've met before, so why do you seem to dislike me? Upon hearing this, the secretary looked at Siko Busujima with displeasure. This woman is something else. I was trying to help her out of kindness, but she was so disrespectful to Lord Luo Wei. Siko Busujima inwardly cursed her miscalculation, realizing she had been too obvious and had been seen through. This was not good, especially since Hisako Shinto had noticed the displeasure in her eyes when she looked at her. If she can't expose the swindler, she might lose his trust. Since that's the case, let's just lay our cards on the table. Siko Busujima took a deep breath and said frankly, I do have a problem with you because in the future I see there are no gods. Since Lord Luo Wei is a god, could you show me? Lo Wei squinted, not only because Yatsuya Miko didn't see herself after that terrible future. Even in the future that Siko Busujima personally experienced, was she not even a part of it? It seems that what they saw and experienced in the future was likely something that happened before they traveled to this world. Now that I'm here, the story is naturally different. Lo Wei didn't mind Siko Busujima's offense and readily agreed. He was also very interested in Siko Busujima. As long as you defeat her and then give her a little treat, Siko Busujima will follow you wholeheartedly, and she won't even mind if Lo Wei has other women. Such a woman is simply wonderful. Luo Wei likes her and naturally doesn't mind if she offends him in the slightest. Lo Wei raised his hand and dragged Siko Busujima into his own dimension of light. Two people appeared out of thin air, hundreds of meters in the air. Welcome to my world. With a snap of his fingers, a spiral staircase extending downwards appeared beneath Luo Wei's feet. Standing on the steps, Siko Busujima could clearly see the boundless grassland and the magnificent palace built on it. The palace is astonishingly large, as if it were built by a giant. The corridor alone is like the Great Wall, exaggerated, majestic, and even sacred. As they descended the spiral staircase, the two entered the magnificent palace. Big, this was Siko Busujima's first impression. Although she could see the magnificent palace from hundreds of meters in the air, Siko Busujima was still awestruck when she entered it. Because this place is just too big. One floor tile alone covers more than 10 square meters. The palace ceilings are terrifyingly high, reaching tens or even hundreds of meters. Siko Busujima walked through the palace as if she were an ant walking through a human house. She had reason to suspect that the palace was actually for giants to live in. Despite being deeply shocked, Siko Busujima still did not believe that Lo was a god. These things alone cannot prove that you are a god. How about this? Luo Wei snapped his fingers, and instantly the sky was covered with dark clouds with streaks of lightning flashing. A torrential downpour poured down as if a crack had opened in the sky and endless rainwater washed over the entire earth. How about this? Luo Wei snapped his fingers again and the torrential rain stopped instantly. It didn't stop raining, it just stopped in midair. The rain seemed to have been paused, frozen in midair, motionless. Siko Busujima stared in disbelief at the scene and reached out to touch the torrential rain. It's not a hallucination, it was real rainwater. And so Luo Wei stopped them in midair, as if the whole world had been frozen in time. I see. Lo snapped his fingers again and an astonishing change occurred once more. Siko Busujima clearly saw the rain in the sky instantly turn into snowflakes which then fell softly. The heavy snow instantly buried the enormous palace. A bone-chilling cold blew over. The weather changed from summer to winter. Then Luo Wei blew another breath and the earth warmed up, all things revived, the snow melted, and the weather changed from winter to spring. Siko Busujima fell silent. Weather manipulation, time-stopping, these incredible abilities all proved Luo Wei's identity. He might not be a fraudster but a genuine deity. If that's the case, why didn't I see Luo Wei's existence when I experienced that horrific and hopeless future? This is Siko Busujima's biggest question. Lo Wei seemed to see Siko Busujima's confusion and said softly, "Have you ever thought about this? The reason why I'm not in the future you're experiencing is because I haven't come into this world yet." Siko Busujima, what does this mean? Simply put, if you consider the future you experience as the first timeline, is it possible that I am not a person from the first timeline? Then, you were reborn and started the second timeline. And it was at this time that I entered this timeline, which is why you didn't see me in the future. Because I entered this world not in my first playthrough but in my second. Siko Busujima fell silent. She wasn't stupid, she naturally understood what Luo Wei meant. This explains why she doesn't know Luo Wei and why Commander-in-Chief Irina Nakiri and Hisako Shinodo trust Luo Wei so much. Because Loi is a deity that only appeared in this timeline. Although it seemed unbelievable, Siko Busujima's intuition told her that this might be the truth. "Please forgive my rudeness, Your Majesty." Siko Busujima took a deep breath and bowed to Luo Wei at a 90-degree angle. Luo Wei waved his hand and said calmly, "No need to be polite. Ignorance is no excuse. Actually, there is something I want to ask you. This disaster started in Tokoname City, right?" Siko Busujima nodded and said decisively, "That's right, the original origin of the disaster is the city where I live, Tokoname City." "Then can you tell me who is behind this disaster? Or rather, do you have anyone you suspect?" Luo Wei looked intently at Siko Busujima and asked this question. Lo Wei was very curious. As someone who experienced this disaster firsthand, did Siko Busujima know who was the mastermind behind it all? Logically speaking, such a major event as the Resident Evil crisis, which even affected the entire country of Japan, should have been investigated by everyone. Therefore, Siko Busujima should know something to some extent. As expected, upon hearing Luo Wei's question, Siko Busujima replied without hesitation, "I'm not sure, but I have some guesses. Perhaps this matter is inextricably linked to the Umbrella Corporation." Lo Wei clicked his tongue. He knew this matter was related to the Umbrella Corporation. After all, how can anyone who plays Resident Evil be without Umbrella? "Why are you unsure?" Ro asked. Siko Busujima said, "After the biohazard outbreak in Tokoname City, some people pointed out that the Umbrella Corporation was involved, and the government intervened in the investigation immediately. However, because the Umbrella Corporation is extremely powerful and is an international company, it can even persuade other countries to put pressure on Japan. Therefore, the investigation into the Umbrella Corporation has not made much progress. Soon afterward, the virus mutated, and even superhumans could not avoid it, causing Tokyo to fall more rapidly. Therefore, the investigation into the Umbrella Corporation has come to a complete standstill. Even before my rebirth, there wasn't enough evidence to prove that this matter was related to the Umbrella Corporation. However, not long after Tokyo fell, the Umbrella Corporation's Tokyo branch was completely evacuated. Therefore, many people suspect that this matter is inextricably linked to the protection racket." Luo Wei raised an eyebrow upon hearing this. "Umbrella is quite something, isn't it? They can actually do this much. That's interesting. It seems I have no choice but to go to this umbrella corporation, but before that. He looked at Seiko Busujima, who had already submitted, and said with a smile, Seiko Busujima, right? You're quite good. I really like women like you who are decisive and action-oriented. How about it, do you want to become my follower and make offerings to me? In exchange, I can grant you great power. Seiko Busujima was somewhat surprised that Lo Wei was still willing to accept her as a believer, even though she had just doubted his identity. This deity is more magnanimous than I imagined. Moreover, she does indeed need powerful forces to deal with that biohazard crisis. Therefore, Seiko Busujima knelt before Lovey almost without hesitation. Thank you for your recognition, Your Majesty. If Your Majesty does not mind my previous offense, I am willing to offer everything to Your Majesty. Luo Wei laughed heartily. I like decisive women like you. After saying that, he placed one hand on Seiko Busujima's shoulder and shared a portion of his power of light with her. Like everyone else, 10,000 points of light power. It is equivalent to 1/10,000th of Lo's strength. After receiving the power bestowed upon her by Lo, Seiko Busujima finally understood why the Commander-in-Chief and Hisako Shinodo respected this man so much. Because he gave so much. Before her rebirth, she fought under Irina Nakiri, where she not only awakened her gourmet cells but also acquired various combat techniques, making her incredibly strong. However, compared to the power he had just acquired, the power he had gained before his rebirth was insignificant. Such immense power was bestowed upon him without a second thought, without even blinking. She had never seen such a generous deity before. Who can withstand this? Anyway, Seiko Busujima felt she couldn't take it anymore, so this time she knelt down on the ground, prostrated herself, and once again swore allegiance to Lovey, vowing to worship only Lovey as the god for the rest of her life. Luo Wei smiled and said, "Get up." Without a word, Seiko Busujima quickly stood up, as obedient as a loyal dog. Afterwards, Lo took Seiko Busujima and left the Dimension of Light, returning to the main gate of Tatsuki Academy. The secretary stood there, never leaving. Seeing Lovey and Seiko Busujima return, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief, Lord Lovey. Luo Wei nodded and pointed at Seiko Busujima, saying, From now on, Seiko Busujima is also my follower and can be considered your companion. The secretary was somewhat surprised that Seiko Busujima's questioning of the master was accepted by him without holding a grudge. The adult is indeed more magnanimous than I imagined. The secretary immediately said, I will pass this on to Miss. As for what Seiko Busujima said earlier, what do you think, sir? It should be true. I have a priestess with top-notch yin-yang eyes who saw this terrible future through her futuristic vision. The secretary was immediately taken aback. Seiko Busujima suddenly realized why the deity believed her so readily. It turns out that this disaster had been anticipated all along. With his ability to see into the future, Lord Lovey's subordinates are indeed full of talent. Looking at his somewhat panicked secretary, Luo Wei said, Don't panic, I will handle this personally. Just do what you need to do next. Don't worry, everything will be fine. After saying that, Luo Wei turned to look at Seiko Busujima and said, Come with me. The next second, he and Seiko Busujima disappeared from the spot. Upon seeing this, the secretary immediately ran back to Tatsuki Academy and told Irina Nakiri everything. Irina Nakiri was somewhat displeased when she heard that the secretary had contacted Lovey because of Seiko Busujima's matter. But after hearing that Luo Wei was very happy about this, he didn't say anything. Later, when I heard that Seiko Busujima had also become a follower of Lo, I couldn't help but click my tongue and think, what a lucky girl. Later, when the secretary said that Luo Wei confirmed that everything Seiko Busujima said was true, his expression changed drastically. However, she was relieved when she learned that Luo Wei intended to handle the matter personally. Since the adults have decided to take action personally, this matter is unlikely to happen. Lord Lovey is right. I don't need to worry about this at all. I should just do what I need to do. The sky won't fall down. Hisako, come help me. I want to prepare a sumptuous dinner for the adults before evening. The secretary was dumbfounded. Miss this. Irina Nakiri calmly said, Since you, sir, are personally taking action, this matter will naturally be resolved properly. What we need to do now is to do our job well. Prepare a sumptuous dinner for the adults instead of worrying about these unnecessary things. The secretary was stunned for a moment, then realized, Oh right, since the master has personally taken action, what am I worried about? Miss, I'm coming to help you right away. She smiled and walked towards Irina Nakiri. On the other hand, after leaving Tatsuki Academy with Seiko Busujima, Lo Wei quickly returned to the Tokyo branch of the Umbrella Corporation. His return this time was naturally to investigate this branch office. Infiltration wasn't Luo Wei's forte, But as a dimensional demon, Luo Wei had too many ways to enter the company without being discovered by the people inside. Even if I bring Seiko Busujima, it's fine. He distorted the surrounding light to create an invisibility effect and swaggered into the Umbrella Corporation's Tokyo branch with Seiko Busujima. This invisibility is so thorough that not only the body shape, but even the footsteps and the voice can be distorted. No one will find out. So Luo Wei walked in with a swagger. Seiko Busujima, who was standing next to him, was amazed and found it incredible. Lord Lo, where should we begin our investigation? Luo Wei thought for a moment and said, let's start by investigating the researchers. If the Resident Evil crisis was indeed orchestrated by the Umbrella Corporation, then the researchers believe they know the inside story. So, Lo took Seiko Busujima on a tour of the vast Umbrella Corporation and soon arrived at the research department. The research department's laboratories were spotless. Everyone was wearing a white coat and it looked quite professional. While one of the researchers was in the restroom, Luo Wei slapped him unconscious and then used his powerful mental strength to forcibly read the man's memories. John Smith, a very typical Western name. And it's the kind that's everywhere. Level 2 researcher at Umbrella Corporation's Tokyo branch. My research specialty is viruses. However, it's not a biochemical virus but HIV. The dream is to one day conquer HIV, completely eradicate this disease and save humanity from suffering. He's a very idealistic person. But that was just John Smith during his college years. Society is a big melting pot. Once you get in, only heaven knows what color you'll become. After graduating from university, John Smith plunged headlong into society with a naive folly and was quickly corrupted. The speed at which this guy fell into depravity is astonishing. In just 1 year since graduation, he has become a seasoned veteran with all sorts of vices, completely different from his university days. If it weren't for Luo Wei reading his memories. He thought this person had also been possessed. The main problem is that they fell into depravity too fast, without even the slightest resistance. 3 years after graduation, he was noticed by people from the Umbrella Corporation, who then bribed him to leak the secrets of his research institute, causing the institute to plummet in value. It was eventually acquired by Umbrella Corporation. John Smith, as a key contributor, was promoted to a Level 2 researcher at Umbrella Corporation. An annual salary of over $500,000 clearly places them in the high-income bracket. Although this guy is despicable and shameless, he has excellent professional knowledge and is a rare talent. Therefore, when the Umbrella Corporation discovered a special virus, it immediately assembled a large number of researchers to decipher and study it. John Smith was naturally one of them. In John Smith's memory, this special virus was called the progenitor virus, which could enhance human abilities and extend human lifespan. Unfortunately, the side effects are severe, so very few people can tolerate them. In an effort to mitigate the harmfulness of the progenitor virus, Umbrella Corporation conducted extensive research. This includes, but is not limited to, using supernatural powers to curb the side effects of the progenitor virus. Even using poison to fight poison. What is meant by fighting poison with poison? It means injecting a new virus into the progenitor virus, causing the two viruses to fight each other, thus evolving into a new virus. Let's see if there's a chance for a benign mutation. So the Umbrella Corporation injected the progenitor virus with the vampire virus. The so-called vampire virus is actually vampire blood. Once a human is infected with this blood, they will turn into the lowest level, ghoul. Therefore, the vampire virus is also known as the ghoul virus. However, the name ghoul virus sounds too offensive, and since the virus was extracted from vampires, people prefer to call it vampire virus. After the vampire virus was injected with the progenitor virus mutated. However, it is not a benign mutation. Instead, it is first and foremost a terrifying malignant mutation. This mutation resulted in a completely new virus which the Umbrella Corporation called the Blacklight virus. When Lo gleaned this information from John Smith's memories, he was stunned. Are you kidding me? It's the Blacklight virus. Isn't this the virus that appeared in the original prototype of Genocide? Don't tell me that this world has also been stitched together with the game prototype. But something's not right. Luo Wei was quite clear about the origin of the Blacklight virus. After all, he had played the game prototype back in the day. The origin of the Blacklight virus dates back to 1962 in the United States, when the Department of Defense and its subordinate Advanced Research Projects Agency secretly established a special unit called Blackwatch. Its original purpose was to use biological warfare to defend against all threats to the United States and hostile forces overseas. All operations of this unit are top secret. In 1963, researchers at Blackwatch discovered a virus. Experiments conducted on primates have shown that through DNA fusion, the virus can significantly enhance a species' intelligence, strength, and other physical attributes at the genetic level. They named the virus Redlig, which means red light virus. This thing is actually the prototype of the blacklight virus. Subsequently, Project Redlight, centered around the virus, was launched. In 1963, Project Blacklight officially began. The Blackwatch Corps established a small town in Idaho called Hope and relocated a group of families of fallen soldiers to the area. They lied, claiming the site was an experimental facility for simulating post-nuclear war settlements, while the unsuspecting military families were completely unaware of the true plan. Blackwatch injected the residents with the virus, but at this point, the virus seemed to have no effect on the infected population. In 1965, the first baby was born in Hope Town. The mutations caused by the virus injected into the baby's parents did not seem to affect the baby himself. However, all the peace was shattered in August 1968 when a disease suddenly broke out in Hope Town. Blackwatch immediately locked down the entire town, and nearly 70% of the residents were infected, while the rest were isolated in the town to die. After nearly a year of hellish living conditions, by July 1969, all but one of the more than 400 residents of Hope Town had died. The sole survivor was Elizabeth Green, who was pregnant when she was found. Blackwatch's purge began immediately. They took Elizabeth Green away and razed the entire Hope Town to the ground with a nuclear bomb. That makes it difficult to evaluate. Lowe felt that the Umbrella Corporation must have a lot in common with this Blackwatch. Because both of these guys like to settle things with nuclear weapons. Nuclear bombs, everyone who has used them says they're great. In short, Elizabeth, who was taken away, quickly became a test subject and was known as a natural virus reservoir, with various viral variants constantly being produced in her body. In 1980, a man named Raymond McMullen founded GNTK, which became a research arm of Blackwatch. He believes that Blackwatch is short-sighted and fails to recognize the value of the red light virus. So, after some persuasion, Project Blacklight was launched under the surveillance of Blackwatch, and Elizabeth was transferred to the Gentech Research Center. Through the efforts of a group of researchers, a new type of virus based on the red light virus was extracted from her body. This virus was named the blacklight virus. This is the origin of the blacklight virus, but in this chaotic patchwork world of anime and manga. The origin of the blacklight virus has completely changed. It has become a variant of the vampire virus and the progenitor virus. That's incredible. Lowe did not recognize that the blacklight virus developed by the Umbrella Corporation was the same thing as the blacklight virus developed by Blackwatch. They may have similar names, but their functions seem to be quite different. Regardless, the Umbrella Corporation eventually developed the blacklight virus. The creation of the blacklight virus was not considered a failure by researchers at the Umbrella Corporation. Because although this thing is a malignant mutation, its effects are terrifyingly powerful. It can create a zombie army that never sleeps, never tires, and never fears. More importantly, people infected with the blacklight virus even have super healing abilities. Unless its head is smashed, it will never lose its ability to move. That's terrifying. It's a pseudo-undead army. If this were placed on the battlefield, it could easily defeat a large number of enemies. The Umbrella Corporation immediately began in-depth research on the blacklight virus, attempting to curb its side effects and induce benign mutations. As a result, a large number of mice became test subjects. Then, after tens of thousands of studies, an accident occurred. After a white mouse was infected with the blacklight virus, it did not turn into a zombie. Instead, it perfectly inherited the best aspects of the blacklight virus: long lifespan, powerful combat ability, and terrifyingly high regenerative capacity. It's just a rat, but its fighting power is more terrifying than that of a fully armed mercenary. This is the real blacklight virus. When the people at Umbrella Corporation discovered all this, they were overjoyed, thinking they had it all figured out this time. However, after some research, they were surprised to find that this mutated mouse was an exception and had no possibility of replicating the blacklight virus. This left countless researchers feeling dejected. But at that moment, a madman's suggestion came up. A man named Emiya Norikaze made a suggestion. We can release the blacklight virus into a bustling city and infect a large number of people with it. Among them, there will always be a few perfect candidates, just like guinea pigs. At that time, we can capture these perfect candidates and study the perfect blacklight virus from them. As for the city location, Tokyo can be chosen. Hiss. When Lowe saw this in John Smith's memory, he couldn't help but gasp. This world is truly amazing at sewing. Even the Type Moon universe has been stitched in. How interesting, how incredibly interesting. Luo Wei knew very well who Emiya Norikaze was. This is a typical magician. The magicians in the Type Moon world are not human at all, or rather, their thought processes are completely different from normal people. In order to achieve their goals, their actions that challenge human values are more and more outrageous than the last. Emiya Norikaze was no exception. In the Fate storyline, this guy is a magician designated to be sealed by the Mages Association. What is a designated seal? It is a method of imprisoning or capturing magicians with extraordinary talents or who have broken taboos under the guise of protection, and confining them for life. Breaking taboos is understandable. However, the part about rare talents is somewhat unbelievable. In the Type Moon universe, some magic is possible due to one's bloodline or physical constitution and cannot be learned through study. Simply put, it is passed down through bloodlines and cannot be learned by outsiders. So the Magic Association would find these people, protect them, and even make them into formalin specimens. That's really too much torture. What's even more infuriating is that the Magic Association does this because they genuinely believe, I'm doing this for your own good. But for the chosen magicians, it was tantamount to a death sentence. Most of them refused the decree and fled to other places. Emiya Norikaze was one of them. Their magic tricks are related to time. It's important to know that any magic trick that involves time is top-notch. The Emiya family's magic lies in accelerating or halting the flow of time within an inherent barrier that is unaffected by the world. Emiya Norikaze thoroughly studied it, attempting to accelerate the flow of time infinitely within an extremely small barrier with almost zero resistance, and to reach the origin that should have appeared afterward by observing the end of the universe. Although the theory itself was very promising, it would take hundreds of years to complete the experiment. In order to solve the lifespan problem, he had no choice but to start exploring the means of becoming a dead apostle. Because the experiments were too cruel, he was eventually killed by his own filial son, Kiritsugu Emiya. Unexpectedly in this world, Norikazu Emiya not only did not die, but instead became a researcher for the Umbrella Corporation. God knows how this guy sneaked in. A magician who doesn't study magic has started studying science, and he almost succeeded in his research. That's incredible. Luo Wei can be fairly certain that Emiya Norikaze made this suggestion because he hoped to develop a real blacklight virus so that he could have a long lifespan. Then he completed his magic trick. As for how many people will die in the process, Emiya Norikaze probably doesn't care. Because magicians are basically a group of cold-blooded guys who don't care how many people die in order to achieve their goals. If someone told these magicians that killing the people of a nation would allow them to travel to the root, they probably won't refuse. That's just the nature of these magi. After Emiya Norikaze's proposal was submitted, the Umbrella Corporation's executives not only did not fly into a rage or refuse it, but instead discussed it with great interest. Because in terms of being a ruthless person, Emiya Norikaze is just as bad as the higher-ups at Umbrella Corporation. There isn't much difference. One is that they don't treat humans as human beings. One is that they don't value life. In conclusion, after some discussion, the Umbrella Corporation's top management finally made a decision. How can we advance the evolution of all humankind without sacrifice? For the sake of the happiness of all mankind, we can only make Tokyoites suffer. Once they develop the perfect blacklight virus, these Tokyoites will surely rest in peace. This is truly a win-win situation. However, once the plan entered the execution phase, the top brass of the Umbrella Corporation discovered that making Tokyo fall was not an easy task. After all, it was the capital of Japan. Japan does a pretty good job with security in this regard. In particular, the Onmyorio Yin-Yang Bureau is a group of humans with extraordinary powers. Each of them is stationed in Tokyo and will immediately be mobilized to suppress any danger that may arise. It may not be able to perfectly demonstrate the effects of the blacklight virus. After some discussion, the Umbrella Corporation decided to avoid Tokyo and change the experimental site to Tokoname City, which is near Tokyo. This place is close to Tokyo and has weak defense capabilities, lacking large-scale onmyoji and armies. If a dangerous situation were to occur, it would take Tokyo some time to react. They certainly wouldn't put all their resources into it. Therefore, this place is a perfect experimental site. Not long ago, people from the Umbrella Corporation injected the blacklight virus into the Bedmaster City Water Company, and it spread to thousands of households through the water pipes. When Lowe saw John Smith's part of his memory, he couldn't help but frown. Yes, he found out about it too late. The Umbrella Corporation had actually released the virus into the city of Bedmaster. The reason the virus did not immediately take effect was because it was still in the incubation period. However, once the incubation period is over, the Blacklight virus will break out. This is also why the virus outbreak in Tokoname City was so severe. Almost without any warning, the biohazard outbreak occurred. However, even the people at Umbrella Corporation probably didn't expect that the Blacklight virus mutated so rapidly that they simply couldn't control it. This thing can even infect supernatural beings like demons. So after this crisis broke out, Tokyo fell within a month and the neon lights fell within 6 months. From that point on, the situation was completely out of control. But at that moment, Luo Wei thought of something else. If this world has been stitched together with Type Moon, then Alea must also truly exist. Neon lights have fallen, and hundreds of millions of people have turned into zombies. Such a big matter, how could Alea remain indifferent? That's impossible. It's important to know that in the Type Moon storyline, Alea goes to great lengths to protect humanity, even using the heroic spirit Emiya as his proxy to eliminate crises that could cause significant harm to humanity. This time, the deaths of hundreds of millions of people are no joke. How could Alea remain unmoved? They would definitely send heroic spirits to fight this crisis, but why did things still develop to the point of no return? Why is that? Luo Wei was puzzled. Could it be that some strange change had occurred again? Having learned the whole story from John Smith's mind, Lo took Seiko Busujima and left the Umbrella Corporation. I have a pretty good understanding of the specifics, he said to Seiko Busujima beside him, but I have bad news for you. Seiko Busujima's face darkened. Luo Wei said, the Umbrella Corporation people spread the Blacklight virus to thousands of households in Bedmaster City through the water company, and currently a large number of people are infected with the Blacklight virus. However, the Blacklight virus is still in its incubation period. Once it passes the incubation period, the biohazard crisis will immediately break out. There is only one way to get rid of the Blacklight virus. Find a cure for the Blacklight virus. Seiko Busujima immediately asked, Lord Lovey, where is the antidote for the Blacklight virus? Luo Wei sighed and said, I have even worse news, there is no cure for the Blacklight virus. Seiko Busujima's face instantly turned deathly pale. Lord Luo Wei, are you saying that the hundreds of thousands of people in Bedmaster City are beyond saving? It's not completely hopeless, it's just a bit troublesome. Luo Wei thought about it and realized that saving people wasn't impossible, but it would be very troublesome. Seiko Busujima knelt down with a thud. Lord Lovey, please sir, save Takanoshichi. If Tokoname City is truly beyond saving, Seiko Busujima won't put Lo in a difficult position. Since Luo Wei said there was still hope, she still hoped that Luo Wei could help. I'm willing to pay any price. After all, that involves hundreds of thousands of lives. To be honest, Luo Wei didn't really care about the hundreds of thousands of lives in Tokoname City, but seeing Seiko Busujima pleading with him so earnestly, he thought for a moment and said, I can give it a try. That evening, Lo followed Seiko Busujima to Tokoname City. As night fell, all was quiet. Seiko Busujima and Lo walked down an empty street. Lord Lo, what should we do next? Luo Wei said with a smile, watch my performance. After saying that, he stepped on the air and walked up into the sky, reaching a height of more than 200 meters, until the entire city of Bedhouse was within his sight. The next second, a bright light burst forth from Luo Wei's body, as if a sun had descended from the sky. In an instant, the entire city of Bedside City was turned upside down. In an instant, the night turned into day. The intense power of light not only shone throughout the entire city of Bedhouse, but also penetrated the rooftops of countless homes, shining upon every single person. The powerful force of light invaded the bodies of hundreds of thousands of people, effortlessly purifying the black light virus within them. The black light virus, still in its incubation period, didn't even have a chance to react before being neutralized. Even the black light virus that was injected into the water company was purified by Luo Wei's power of light. Not long after, the blacklight virus disappeared from Tokoname City. When everything was over, Lovey withdrew the power of light and returned to the deserted streets. At this moment, black and white are reversed once again. Daylight disappears, night falls. All right, I've completely eradicated the blacklight virus in Bedmaster City, Luo Wei said casually. Seiko Busujima, Lord Lovey, didn't you say it was very troublesome? Isn't this troublesome enough? Luo Wei retorted, noting that he hadn't had this much trouble when he fought Nurarihan. Science. This time, in order to purify the blacklight virus in the bodies of hundreds of thousands of people in Bed City, Luo Wei not only unleashed a powerful force, but also managed to reduce the power of the light force. It only purified the virus in the bodies of this group of people without causing harm to the bodies of hundreds of thousands of others. Although the whole process only took a few minutes, the degree of control was just right. It took a lot of energy from Luo Wei. That's why Lo Wei said this matter was very troublesome. Siko Busujima didn't understand the underlying principles, which is why she felt the matter wasn't as troublesome as she had imagined. But if she understood the underlying principles, she would naturally understand how much effort Lo had put in those few short minutes. It's simply not something an ordinary person could handle. Fortunately, Siko Busujima wasn't stupid and quickly figured out the operation. After all, purifying the blacklight virus lurking in the bodies of hundreds of thousands of people in one go is simply too outrageous. Just thinking about its implications made her scalp tingle. Thank you for your hard work, Lord Lovey. Luo Wei waved his hand and said, although it's a bit tiring, it's my believer's request. As a god, isn't it only natural to respond to one's believers? At that moment, Siko Busujima felt as if she had been struck by herself. An unprecedented feeling of being moved welled up in my heart. This made her respect Lo Wei even more. But at that moment, she suddenly felt a powerful force approaching her and instinctively stepped in front of Luo Wei to block it, becoming more vigilant. A few seconds later, a man with white hair and wearing a red leather suit descended from the sky and landed in front of her. Luo Wei recognized the man in front of him at a glance. It is the agent of Alea, Emiya Heroic Spirit. Lo was not surprised at all by the appearance of the heroic spirit Emiya. He had thought that Alea could not possibly remain indifferent to the fall of Japan and the transformation of hundreds of millions of people into zombies. They will definitely send out heroic spirits to resolve this matter. I just don't know why I failed within the timeline of the first playthrough. Who is it? Siko Busujima saw the heroic spirit Emiya fall in front of her and gripped her wooden sword tightly, ready to deliver a fatal blow at any moment. Emiya quickly raised his hands and said, "Calm down, I am not your enemy." He was unwilling to clash with Siko Busujima. His intuition told him that this woman was not simple. But the man behind her is even more complicated. He had seen what had just happened, and without a doubt, it was simply a monster. Lovey nodded, confirming the call from heroic spirit Emiya. That's right, this guy isn't an enemy. Siko Busujima was taken aback but decided to follow Luo Wei's advice, gradually lowering her guard and suppressing her hostility. Emiya raised an eyebrow and said to Lovey, "It seems you know me. I've never met the agent of Alea, but I've heard of you. I didn't expect that someone as important as you would have heard of me," Emiya said helplessly. If he could, he really wouldn't want to be famous. Luo Wei said, "Tell me what brings you here." "You should already know about the blacklight virus, right?" said the heroic spirit Emiya. Lo Wei nodded. The heroic spirit Emiya said, "I would like to join forces with you to completely resolve the blacklight virus issue. What do you think?" Siko Busujima said, "The master has purified all the viruses in the city of Tokoname." The heroic spirit Emiya said calmly, "But it only purified the blacklight virus in Tokoname City. The blacklight virus is still in the hands of the Umbrella Corporation. If the Umbrella Corporation is not dealt with, there will be another Tokoname City. Of course, it's also possible that the next one won't be Tokoname City but Tokyo." Siko Busujima fell silent. Emiya was right, it's all Umbrella Corporation's fault. Although the crisis in Tokoname City has been resolved this time, the blacklight virus will eventually spread as long as the Umbrella Corporation is not dealt with. Luo Wei asked curiously, "Why do you want to cooperate with me?" Although Umbrella Corporation is a huge multinational corporation, your boss is Alea. With Alea's strength, what does it matter if she sends a few more heroic spirits over? What is the Umbrella? Even a fully armed army cannot be a match for a top-tier heroic spirit. Especially those Grand Servant, they're terrifying. Even the heroic spirit Emiya could slaughter a fully armed special forces unit. Heroic spirit Emiya said, "The Umbrella Corporation is not as simple as you think. The higher-ups have long known about Alea's existence and have made thorough preparations. Once Alea invokes the spirits to strike at the Umbrella Corporation will detonate the viruses hidden around the world. At that time, all of humanity will face annihilation. Even if they are not completely wiped out, they will be severely damaged. Therefore, even Alea is wary of the protective umbrella and dares not make a move easily." Luo Wei understood. Although the protective umbrella of this world is no match for Alea, it possesses the means to severely injure humanity and even drag humanity down with it. So even though Alea could easily take down the protective umbrella, it didn't dare to make a move. Because the Umbrella Corporation's top brass didn't mind perishing with humanity, but Alea was unwilling to take the enormous risk of confronting the Umbrella Corporation. Isn't this a unique kind of? Porcelain doesn't touch tiles. The world's protective umbrella is quite something. It's amazing that it made Alea hesitate to act rashly. So how do you plan to cooperate with me? Luo Wei asked curiously. Aren't you going to ask me to deal with the Umbrella Corporation? Aren't you afraid that the Umbrella Corporation will flip the table? Emiya said, the Umbrella Corporation's trump card is the virus. As long as we can solve the problems caused by the virus, the Umbrella Corporation is not worth mentioning. So I hope you can find the locations where the Umbrella Corporation is hiding the virus around the world and then cleanse it. At that time, Alea will send out heroic spirits to annihilate the Umbrella Corporation in one fell swoop. Luo Wei nodded, agreeing that this was indeed the point. The problem is that finding the viruses that Umbrella Corporation hides around the world is not an easy task. For their own safety, the top brass of the Umbrella Corporation would certainly hide these locations very well. Finding these locations is much more difficult than purifying the virus in the main city. It seems so troublesome to have to travel back and forth like this. But Lo did not refuse. He had grown accustomed to the conveniences of civilized society. If human civilization in this world were to be destroyed, it would bring him no benefit whatsoever. However, although Loe decided to save the world and create the Umbrella Corporation, he still wanted to take advantage of every opportunity to profit. Cooperation is possible, but what benefits does Alea intend to offer me? Heroic spirit Emiya, do you even want to listen to what you're saying? I'm inviting you to save humanity and you're asking me for something in return. Luo Wei said with a smile, you've figured it out, haven't you? I'm not human. Even if humanity is destroyed, it won't pose the slightest threat to me. Alea wants me to save the world and save humanity, fine, but I can't expect to get something for nothing. The heroic spirit Emiya said, although you are not human, but... He glanced at Siko Busujima without saying a word. The destruction of humanity won't do you any good either. Luo Wei nodded and said frankly, that's true, but I can save a portion of humanity when it's destroyed and then use those people to start a new civilization. But can Alea accept such an outcome? What a load of rubbish. If it were acceptable, Alea wouldn't have sent me here. After 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind, heroic spirit Emiya nodded and said, I understand. I will communicate with Alea about this matter. Anyway, it's Alea who's bleeding the most, so what does it have to do with some working-class guy? Seeing that the heroic spirit Emiya was so sensible, Luo Wei nodded in satisfaction. Very well. After you go back, convey my request to Alea. If you want me to take action, send me a few heroic spirits. I want to choose them myself, understand? Emiya nodded. He will absolutely tell Alea about this, because he couldn't wait to see Alea's sour face after hearing the news. You can exploit me. Now you finally have someone to exploit you. I'm so tall. No, I'm so angry. Afterwards, heroic spirit Emiya left. After watching the other person's figure disappear from her sight, Siko Busujima asked, Sir, who exactly was that Jaihu just now? A heroic spirit. Heroic spirits? That's right. Heroic spirits are the beings who became legends after their deaths because of their great achievements. They are the objects of worship for heroes such as King Arthur, Richard the Lionheart, Newton, Einstein, Washington, Miyamoto Musashi, Guan Yu, and Zhao Yun. Luo Wei slowly said, after they died, these people entered Valhalla and became Alea's collection. Siko Busujima's eyes flashed with surprise. So that person was also a historical hero. Who was he really? His name is Emiya Shiru. Siko Busujima was a little confused because she had never heard of a person named Shiru Emiya in history. Lo Wei reached out and smoothed the wrinkles between Siko Busujima's brows, saying softly, don't think about it. That guy isn't an ancient hero. Valhalla exists outside the timeline and is not affected by the future or the past. Therefore, the heroes in the Hall of Heroes are not only heroes of the past, but also heroes of the future. The current Shiru Emiya is still alive. The Shiru Emiya you see is a heroic spirit who died in the future, became a heroic spirit, was conscripted by Alea, and was sent to this point in time to carry out a mission. Siko Busujima, goodness, the world is a deep and complex place. The Hall of Heroes, existing independently of the timeline, is where heroes from the future can return to the present. And yet, in the first playthrough, I still couldn't stop the Umbrella Corporation's actions. The Umbrella Corporation is really something else. This shameless company is indeed a great enemy of mankind. I hope that Alea can reach an agreement with Lord Luo Wei as soon as possible to eliminate this bullshit company that is harming mankind. Taking a deep breath, Siko Busujima looked up and asked, Lord Lovey, what should we do next? Luo Wei smiled and said, go home and sleep. Siko Busujima, staying up late is bad for women's skin. It's a woman's worst enemy, Siko. Siko Busujima, what you said makes so much sense that I don't even know how to refute it for a moment. So the two of them immediately went home to sleep. Don't misunderstand, everyone is going home. Luo Wei only met Siko Busujima today, and he's not so lustful as to want to make a move on her. He's not some lecherous lunatic. However, to Luo Wei's surprise, after he fell asleep that night, Alea sent a communication request. Luo Wei was somewhat surprised, but it didn't seem so surprising. He simply hadn't expected Alea to be so impatient, so he readily agreed to Alea's request for communication. In an instant, a powerful consciousness entered Luo Wei's dream. Sit. Luo Wei raised his hand, and the dream transformed into a huge palace. He sat on the throne deep within the palace, looking down at the powerful consciousness that had just entered the great point. Human inhibition, Alea. After Alea entered Luo Wei's dream, she transformed into a cute little girl. This is not the true form of Alea. Alea actually has no true form, it is merely a force of restraint and has no concrete form whatsoever. The reason she turned into a little girl was simply due to Luo Wei's subconscious. Luo Wei has read many fanfictions, all of which depict Alea as a little girl. Thus, Alea who entered her dream became a little girl, but the little girl is just an appearance. If you look at it seriously, you'll find that the image of Alea seems to be constantly changing, resembling an old person, a child, a saint, or a prisoner. But upon closer inspection, Alea's image seems unchanged. It remains the same little girl. It's really strange. Alea looked up, her eyes devoid of any emotion as she gazed at Luo Wei. Although it was a suppressive force, Alea's eyes were completely devoid of feeling, as calm as a machine. Nice to meet you, Alea. A smile spread across Luo Wei's lips. Alea said, I have heard your request from Emiya. If you can help me eliminate the Umbrella Corporation, I can give you a few heroic spirits. Several? 3. That's too few, Rose said without hesitation. I want 10. Too many, Alea shook her head and said, at most 4. And so, a dimensional demon and a human restraint in Lovey's dream began to argue about the matter of heroic spirits just like street vendors. Finally, after some arguments, adjustments, and compromises, they reached an agreement. The two reached an agreement. Lo helps Alea destroy the Umbrella Corporation, solve all the viruses, and save humanity. Alea gave 5 heroic spirits to Lovey. The heroic spirit given to Lovey will no longer be under the control of Alea. Simply put, from this point on, the boss of these 5 heroic spirits is no longer Alea. It was Lo Wei. Alea has no right to control these 5 heroic spirits. However, Alea will not hand over these 5 heroic spirits to Lo Wei all at once, since Lo Wei has not yet eliminated the Umbrella Corporation, and it is impossible for him to hand over all the heroic spirits to Lo Wei at once. That's not how business is done. He decided to pay a 40% advance payment, which meant sending 2 heroic spirits to Lo Wei first. Once Lo Ev has completely dealt with the Umbrella Corporation, then hand over the remaining 3 heroic spirits to Lo Ev. Lo Wei had no objection to this. After the deal was finalized, Alea asked, now you can tell me which heroic spirit you want. But there's one thing I must remind you, you are not allowed to choose a grand heroic spirit, that's my bottom line. Lovey clicked his tongue and without thinking uttered the name of the first heroic spirit. Medea. Of all magicians, Medea is undoubtedly the foremost. A witch who once lived in the age of mythology, the magic she wielded possessed power approaching that of the realm of magic. She can perform any kind of grand magic trick using the high-speed divine words skill. Her skills even surpass those of the strongest magicians and sorcerers of the modern era. Although Medea is not a magician, no one would object to describing her as a magician who is very close to being a magician. In official terms, the world was once filled with magic, and the embodiment of the mysterious wonders that amazed people in the past was Medea. In addition, Medea was also a disciple of Hecate, the goddess of magic in Greek mythology. This alone is enough to prove Medea's worth. Among all the magicians, only a handful could surpass Medea. Solomon was one of them. Unfortunately, Alea would never hand Solomon over to her because Solomon is a grand servant. Besides Solomon, only the westward journey could rival Medea. However, the westward journey was too upright, and compared to the westward journey, Loie still preferred Medea, who doesn't like a witch. Therefore, the first person Loie chose was Medea. Okay, Alea readily agreed. The Medea chosen by Lovey did not cross his bottom line, so he agreed very readily. And the second person, Lo's eyes flickered and he said, if it's the second person, let's choose Hohenheim. This is also a magician, whose full name is Paracelsus von Hohenheim. The legendary doctor and alchemist is widely known as a figure from the 16th century Renaissance. From the rediscovery of the four elements or five elements and the three primary substances, he left behind numerous achievements in books, making him a rare figure renowned in both human history and the history of magic. A powerful magician who wields the five elements, rational and composed. He was gentle by nature, disliked fighting, and often referred to human love as the most precious thing. Perhaps in magic he was not as good as Medea, however in alchemy he could definitely surpass Medea. There are reasons why Lo Wei chose him. Alea nodded again. Although Hohenheim was outstanding, there were many other heroic spirits who were more outstanding than him. Alea naturally wouldn't be reluctant to part with it. Tomorrow morning, when you perform your heroic spirit summoning today, I will send both of them to your side. Luo Wyan nodded in agreement. Afterwards, Alea left behind the ritual to summon the heroic spirits and withdrew from Lovey's dream. Soon after, Luo Wei woke up from his dream, opened his eyes, and saw that it was already bright outside, with sunlight streaming through the window and falling on him. After getting out of bed, Luo Wei sent a message to both Nakiri Irina and his secretary. I'm hosting 2 friends today, so please prepare breakfast for 3 people and make it as lavish as possible. Not long after, he received responses from 2 people. No problem, Lord Lo. Please wait a moment, Lord Lo. After that, Luo Wei went into the bathroom to wash up. Back in the living room, Lovey slowly began to draw a magic circle to summon heroic spirits, using, of course, his own blood. A single drop of blood, thinner than a hair, formed the magic circle for summoning Valhalla. Then Lo began to summon. Be full, be full, be full, be full, be full. The cycle repeats itself and then there are 5. However, the moment of fullness is the moment of abandonment. I declare that you obey my commands, and my life is one with your sword. Respond to the call of the Holy Grail if you are willing to follow its will and its principles. I hereby swear that I will accomplish all good deeds in the world, and I will eradicate all evil deeds in the world. I will be the one who holds their chains. You are the 7 heavens, bound by the 3 great incantations, and the guardian of the wheel of restraint and the scales. The next second, the magic circle emitted a bright light, and 2 figures appeared simultaneously in the center of the magic circle. When all the light faded, a man wearing an indigo-purple hooded cloak and a purple robe, and with a black ponytail, appeared before Ro. The woman in the purple robe is none other than Medea, the magician from the mythological era. The man with the ponytail is von Hohenheim Paracelsus. If Hohenheim were a woman, Lowy would tell her, "Madam, your hairstyle is dangerous." Unfortunately, Hohenheim was a man. Luo Wei didn't know how to complain, but then again, why would a man like you have a side ponytail? Is it cuteness? This time I was really summoned by someone extraordinary. Medea took off her hooded cloak, revealing a simple yet beautiful face. Medea greets your excellency. Hohenheim, standing to the side, nodded to Ro, "Greetings, your excellency." Luo Wyan said to the 2 of them, "Alea should have already told you everything." Medea nodded. "When we descended to the mortal realm, Alea had already given us to you. I'm very curious, who exactly are you to be able to snatch people from Alea's hands?" Luo Wei said, "I would say I'm a dimensional demon god, similar to Hades, the lord of hell, except that my dimension isn't hell but the dimension of light." Medea's eyes flickered, and she immediately gained an accurate understanding of Lovey's identity. "It's even more amazing than I imagined." She asked curiously, "I have a question, Lord Lo. If you want to eliminate the Umbrella Corporation, why don't you ask Alea for more powerful heroic spirits instead of us?" Hohenheim had the same question and looked at Ro, waiting for Ro's answer. Von Hohenheim was well aware that, as a heroic spirit, while he could fight, he was more inclined to focus on research. Alea has countless powerful heroic spirits at her disposal, many of whom are stronger than herself. Why did Lo Wei choose himself? Luo Wei said frankly, "What's the use of being able to fight? Even if the heroic spirits under Alea are capable of fighting, can they be as strong as me? I'm not bragging, but even if you put all the heroes together, Solomon, the Old Man of the Mountain, Gilgamesh, Merlin, Ku Chulainn, Heracles, Taegong Wang, Karna, and so on, they wouldn't be able to defeat him. So what I'm looking for isn't powerful heroic spirits but talented people like you." Medea, a disciple of Hecate, the god of magic, and a magician of the age of gods. Hohenheim, the legendary doctor, alchemist, and powerful magician who wields the 5 elements. All I need are you. Medea's eyes flickered and she chuckled softly, saying, "This is truly an honor, demon god." Hohenheim nodded. Ro's words made him feel valued, and perhaps he was a very good new boss. Luo Wei waved his hand and said, "Don't call me demon god, call me Luo Wei or boss, it sounds better." Medea readily agreed, "Then I won't stand on ceremony, boss." Hohenheim nodded, "Boss, very good, very energetic." Luo Wei nodded in satisfaction. Just then, Irina Nakiri and her secretary had finished preparing breakfast and were offering it to him. Lo Wei snapped his fingers and took over the dishes they had offered as tribute. Here, this is a dish that my followers have brought me. Please have a taste. Medea and Hohenheim, without being outside the boundaries, sat down and joined Ro in enjoying today's sumptuous breakfast. Luo Wei picked up a steamed dumpling and took a bite. The taste was delicious and the juice was plentiful, which was very appealing. He then sent a message to Irina Nakiri. The steamed dumplings were good today, I'll have them again tomorrow. Yes, sir, Irina Nakiri replied, her voice light and cheerful, tinged with joy. It looks like she made the steamed dumplings. While eating, Lo called to Medea and Hohenheim, letting the two experience the impact of modern cuisine. Although the mythological era was powerful, it may not have eaten as well as we do today. Not to mention the 16th century in which Hohenheim lived, it's simply incomparable to the present. The two of them thoroughly enjoyed their breakfast. After breakfast, Luo Wei took the opportunity to sign contracts with the two men. From then on, Medea and Hohenheim were Loi's people, and Loi would provide them with the power they needed to remain on Earth. Fortunately, Lo Wei's power is astonishing. Providing 2 heroic spirits is no problem, let alone 20, 200, or even 2,000. Sensing the unfathomable power of Lovey, Medea and Hohenheim finally understood what right Lovey had to negotiate with Alea, because this new boss is really strong. What should we do next? Hohenheim asked. Lovey said, Alea intends for me to find out the viruses that Umbrella Corporation has hidden around the world and then destroy them. At that time, he can send powerful heroic spirits to destroy Umbrella Corporation. However, I think doing it this way is too troublesome and too passive. Therefore, there is a way to solve this once and for all. Medea asked with a smile, what good ideas does the boss have? Lo said, the reason I'm looking for you is because I need your abilities, especially yours, Hohenheim. I plan to get some of Umbrella Corporation's viruses for you to study. If you can develop an antibody or antidote for the virus, then Umbrella Corporation is nothing. Hohenheim's eyes flickered upon hearing this. That is indeed a good idea, boss, and I'm very curious about what kind of virus could make Alea hesitate to act against it. If an alchemist didn't even have this much curiosity, he wouldn't have left such a great reputation in history. It was his inclination to be curious that enabled him to become the legendary alchemist. Luo Wei said, then what are we waiting for? Let's go. As a man of action, Lo first called Sawako Yamanaka to ask for leave, and then took Hohenheim and Medea to the Tokyo branch of the Umbrella Corporation. This time, however, Luo Wei didn't try to sneak around. Instead, he directly used his powerful mental abilities to hypnotize all the staff members of the Umbrella Corporation branch. Then he swaggered in. Everyone inside the Umbrella Corporation was unsurprised by the arrival of Luo Wei and his group, as if Luo Wei had always been an employee there. In fact, in the eyes of all the Umbrella Corporation staff, Lo was one of the people here. And they're not just any ordinary people. Lo Wei is the head of a branch of the Umbrella Corporation. Hohenheim was even designated as the principal researcher. Medea, of course, was Lovey's secretary. As for the original person in charge, after being hypnotized by Lo Wei, he became a cleaner for the Umbrella Corporation. Medea clicked her tongue in amazement at Lovey's performance. The boss is truly powerful. Of course, it's just a matter of marveling at Lo Wei's strength. It wasn't Lo's technique. In Medea's view, Lovey's skills were utterly terrible. He had merely used his powerful mental strength to distort the memories of everyone present. It's not something to be praised. Anyone with the same level of mental strength as Luo Wei could do this. Lovey knew this too and said with a smile, that's why I asked Alea for you. As a magician from the Age of Gods, you shouldn't be stingy in passing on some knowledge about magic to me, right? Medea smiled slightly. Of course, it's just some knowledge. Luo Wei knew that, despite Medea's casual manner of speaking, her knowledge was actually extremely valuable. If the people from the Magic Association found out, they would definitely be crying and begging to kneel at Medea's feet, eager to learn this knowledge. Magic in the mythological era was far more terrifying than magic in today's world. So Lo left Hohenheim at the Umbrella Corporation's Tokyo branch. He took Medea into the Dimension of Light to learn magic. Why enter the Dimension of Light? Because the Dimension of Light is Lovey's dimension, and within the Dimension of Light, Lovey is an omnipotent god. Even things like accelerating or pausing time are easily done by Luo Wei. Therefore, learning Medea's magic here is the perfect opportunity. 8 hours have passed in the real world. Half a year has passed in the Dimension of Light. In the past 6 months, Lo Wei has almost completely absorbed Medea's magical knowledge, becoming a magician who is no less skilled than Medea, and perhaps even more terrifying. Of course, the reason why Lovey was more terrifying than Medea was not because of his profound knowledge. It was simply because he was R*****D by Medea. Using the same magic, Medea could casually release dozens of magic bullets, while Lovey could release hundreds or even thousands. Medea can summon hundreds of dragon tooth soldiers, while Lovey can summon thousands or even tens of thousands. This is why Lovey was more terrifying than Medea. In addition, the magic that Medea needs to prepare before she can use, Lovey can use casually. This is why Lovey is even more terrifying than Medea. Moreover, through learning magic, Lo Wei's mastery of power reached an astonishing level. He is no longer the same as before, using strength to achieve his goals by throwing bricks. Instead, it allows for a more nuanced control over one's own power. But this is not the biggest progress for Lovey. Lovey's biggest progress is that his relationship with Medea has improved by leaps and bounds in the past 6 months. The two spent half a year in the dimension of light, spending every day together, teaching and learning from each other. It would be difficult for their relationship not to improve, although we haven't broken through that thin layer of paper yet. But Lovey knew that Medea's gaze already had him in it. Lo Wei knew even more clearly that he could lure Medea into his bed at any time if he wanted to. But he didn't do that because he knew very well that he could never have only Medea as a woman in his life. Therefore, he did not intend to completely conquer Medea before Medea fully accepted his ambition. He wanted to use the method of slowly boiling a frog in warm water to gradually make Medea accept all of this. If Medea truly cannot accept it, Lovey will not force her. At worst, we can just maintain the relationship between the boss and the subordinate. Medea was actually aware of this, which was one of the reasons why she didn't completely confront Lovey. The two tacitly avoided this point, deciding to discuss it another day. Back in the real world, Lo found Hohenheim and asked, "So, is there any way to create antibodies and an antidote for the virus?" Hohenheim shook his head and said, "I just came into contact with the blacklight virus today and I don't have a clear idea yet. I need time to study it." "Okay, how long will it take you?" "It could take several years," Hohenheim said. Luo Wei said, "I can send you to my dimension and adjust the flow of time." 1 hour in the real world is 1 year in my dimension, but wouldn't it be lonely to be alone? Hohenheim laughed and said, "Valhalla isn't as lively as you imagine, boss. For me, loneliness is nothing. I'm actually quite excited to have such an interesting virus by my side." Lo could tell that Hohenheim wasn't lying. His eyes were full of eagerness. "Very good." Luo Wei nodded and sent Hohenheim, the blacklight virus, and the corresponding data and equipment into his own light dimension, while silently adjusting the flow of time. An hour later, Hohenheim had already spent a year in his own dimension. Research on the blacklight virus has made rapid progress. 2 hours later, Hohenheim had spent 2 years in the light dimension. Research on the blacklight virus has reached a bottleneck. 3 hours later, Hohenheim had spent 3 years in the dimension of light. Research on the blacklight virus is progressing slowly. In the blink of an eye, several hours had passed. Hohenheim spent year after year in the dimension of light, using countless methods. Lowy would also occasionally enter the light dimension to offer Hohenheim some assistance. By the next morning, Hohenheim had been in the dimension of light for more than a decade. Over the past decade or so, Hohenheim has transformed from an alchemist into a qualified virologist. The research on the blacklight virus has gone to an unbelievable level. They even used the blacklight virus as a blueprint to create several different viruses. To put it bluntly, Hohenheim has completely mastered the blacklight virus. He has invented both antibodies and antidotes and has achieved mass production of them. But this wasn't what made Lo Wei happiest. What pleased Ro most was that Hohenheim had developed the perfect blacklight virus. No, it can't be called the blacklight virus. It is actually black light serum. Anyone who takes the blacklight serum will have their lifespan extended to about 300 years and will possess a pseudo-immortal body. What is immortality? It is a heart that can regenerate even if its head is cut off and its heart is pierced. But if the body is destroyed, it will also die. This is the pseudo-immortality. As for true immortality, it is immortality in the concept of being able to come back to life even if one's head is destroyed, one's body is burned, and one's corpse is reduced to ashes. That is true immortality. Compared to this kind of immortality, the immortality of the blacklight serum can only be considered a pseudo-immortality. In addition, black light serum also has the ability to absorb and assimilate viruses. People who have taken the blacklight serum can assimilate any virus they encounter, whether it's the progenitor virus, the vampire virus, or any other virus, turning it into their own nutrients. There's no need to worry about being poisoned anymore. Unfortunately, the production of black light serum is limited, making it impossible for it to be widely available throughout the world. Because there is a very important material inside the black light serum. That is, rose cells. As mentioned before, in addition to being a dimensional demon god, Luo Wei's body is also that of a demi-human who can be resurrected after death. Hohenheim used Lowe's cells and fused them with the blacklight virus to create the powerful blacklight serum. Therefore, the blacklight serum is destined to be unable to be mass-produced, but it can be given as a personal benefit to its followers. Of course, Lowe's followers do not actually need to take the blacklight serum. Because Lovey's power of light is far more powerful than any black light serum. What the black light serum can do, the power of light can also do. However, Rose followers could use these items to trade with others or to recruit followers. So far, none of Lowe's followers seem to be ambitious, but ambition can be cultivated. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that Lowe may recruit some ambitious people as his followers in the future. Therefore, Blacklight Serum is excellent for both training subordinates and winning over allies. For Hohenheim, who had developed the Blacklight Serum, Lowe was naturally generous with his reward, unleashing a powerful burst of light energy to strengthen Hohenheim. After being strengthened, Hohenheim's strength increased significantly, and his combat power rose several levels out of nowhere. Now, even if he were to confront a top-tier heroic spirit like Karna or Siegfried, Hohenheim would not be afraid. Whether or not we can fight depends on the outcome. However, Hohenheim was not entirely satisfied with the result and complained to Rowe, "Rather than strengthening my power, I would have preferred that you, boss, give me more of your cells. Demi-humans are truly a wondrous species." Lowe Wei. He didn't know how to complain for a moment. Fortunately, Hohenheim stopped there and said with a smile, "The Blacklight virus has been cracked. When does the boss plan to take action against the Umbrella Corporation?" Luo Wei calmly stated, "According to my investigation, the Umbrella Corporation has more than one Blacklight virus. There are other viruses besides Blacklight. Unless all these viruses are cracked and antibodies are developed, Umbrella Corporation cannot be touched." Hohenheim smiled slightly and said, "That's easy. I've developed a variant of the Blacklight virus that can devour other viruses and transform them into the Blacklight virus. And we also possess the antidote for the Blacklight virus. If Umbrella Corporation really dares to go down with us, we will fully release the variant Blacklight virus, devour these viruses, and eventually eliminate them. The Umbrella Corporation can't cause any trouble." Luo Wei grunted in agreement. If that were the case, it might not be a bad idea. Whether it will work or not remains to be seen. So Luo Wei left the Umbrella Corporation and went to the private Sakura Academy. He didn't come here to teach this time. They came looking for someone. As for who to turn to, who else could it be but her own shrine maiden Yatsuya Miko? Lunch break. Luo Wei bid farewell to Tanaka Ritsu, found Yatsuya Miko and Yurikawa Hana, and led the two women to the balcony of the teaching building, locking the door from the inside. "Jianzi, I need your help. Lord Lo, please speak." Yatsuya Miko was extremely grateful to Luo Wei. Ever since she awakened her yin-yang eyes and could see evil spirits everywhere, Yatsuya Miko had been terrified. They can see it clearly, but they pretend they can't. You must be on high alert at all times for fear of accidentally falling prey to evil spirits. But since becoming Lovey's priestess and gaining great power, Yatsuya Miko no longer fears these evil spirits. Any evil spirit he can see will be blasted into dust. I felt much more relaxed instantly, and even my sleep became better. He was extremely respectful to Luo Wei, and now that he heard Luo Wei needed his help, he became even more excited. Lo said, "I need you to look at the future and what the consequences would be if I were to take action against Umbrella Corporation's rivals." Miko Yatsuya, unaware of the situation, takes action against the Umbrella Corporation. Why would an adult take action against a company? Although she didn't quite understand, Yatsuya Miko still activated her yin-yang eyes and gained future vision. This time, Luo Wei took the initiative to get involved, so Yatsuya Miko clearly saw her future with Luo Wei. But this future surprised Yatsuya Miko greatly. Luo Wei could clearly see that Yatsuya Miko's expression kept changing, sometimes surprised, sometimes astonished, sometimes excited, and sometimes trembling as if she had seen something extraordinary. A few minutes later, Miko Yatsuya stopped looking into the future. Luo Wei asked, "So what kind of future did you see?" Yatsuya Miko hesitated for a moment, then said, "That's not a good idea." "Oh, tell me about it." Luo Wei was also very curious. Could a mere Umbrella Corporation really turn the world upside down? Miko Yatsuya said, "I saw the adults destroy the Tokyo branch of the Umbrella Corporation, and other branches of the Umbrella Corporation were also attacked by unknown people. The Umbrella Corporation's businesses around the world were suddenly hit with unprecedented devastation. Then, news reports indicated that senior executives of the Umbrella Corporation had been assassinated, resulting in heavy casualties. But at this time, a large number of viruses suddenly broke out around the world, and many people were infected and died. Although these viruses were contained immediately, they did not disappear completely. Raccoon City in America in particular suffered heavy losses, with hundreds of thousands of people turning into zombies. Later, I saw a nuclear bomb fall on Raccoon City, leveling it to the ground. Viruses around the world are gradually being contained and disappearing. Just when everyone thought the matter was over, a special virus broke out. This virus is called male killer, or MK for short. The MK virus has no effect on women, but it is deadly to men. After this virus outbreak, 99% of men worldwide died from it. Only 5 men survived, and all 5 of them were demi-humans. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei couldn't help but show a surprised expression. The MK virus has killed men worldwide with only 5 survivors. Oh my god, this is the end of the harem. Goodness gracious, Luo Wei exclaimed. Although I knew this world was full of surprises, I still underestimated it. It always manages to come up with something new and interesting. Even Yurikawa found it unbelievable. Only 5 men survived, they must be so lucky. Luo Wei turned and glanced at Bei Chuanhua, then said, "Do you really think these 5 men are happy?" Yurikawa Hana tilted her head and said, "Isn't that right?" Luo Wei said, "For example, if you were to face more than 10,000 men, no more than 5 men, would you feel happy?" Bei Chuanhua thought for a moment and couldn't help but shiver. What a terrifying story this is. Seeing that she understood, Luo Wei didn't say anything more and turned to look at Yatsuya Miko. Jianzi, what is the connection between this MK virus and the Umbrella Corporation? Miko Yatsuya nodded and said, "It's related." When Umbrella Corporation was completely wiped out, someone publicly stated that they wanted to drag the world down with them. Then, the MK virus appeared, causing mass deaths of men worldwide and the collapse of order. The world has suffered heavy losses. Luo Wei had already suspected it, but he was still surprised to hear Yatsuya Miko confirm it. The Umbrella Corporation in this world is pretty impressive. They even have the MK virus, which is specifically designed to target men. That's awesome. If it weren't for the unique species of demi-humans, there might not even be a single male in the end. Luo Wei asked, "And what about me? Did I take no action at all in the future?" Yatsuya Miko said, "That's what I find strange too. After you destroyed the Umbrella Corporation, you disappeared. I never saw you again in the future." Luo Wei also found it somewhat unbelievable. At first, Yatsuya Miko could still see him, but later he disappeared into this messed up future. What happened? Why did I disappear? Could it be that he deliberately went into hiding, or perhaps they are trapped? This doesn't seem impossible. After all, who knows how many strange and wonderful things have been stitched together in this crossover anime world. It wouldn't be surprising if a master suddenly appeared and slapped him in the face or trapped him. Of course, it's impossible to die. After all, if he encounters an enemy he can't defeat, Luo Wei can simply leave Earth and hide in the light dimension, where even the most powerful enemy won't be able to catch up. Even if they do catch up, they might not be able to defeat themselves in the dimension of light. After all, in the dimension of light, Lovey is an omnipotent god. But then again, does a mere protective umbrella company have that kind of power? Lo wasn't quite sure, but he had to be careful. No wonder Alea, despite having an absolute advantage, still dared not take action against the Umbrella Corporation. Even when negotiating with me, he was exceptionally generous, giving away ownership of several halls of heroes without hesitation, allowing me to choose any of the servants except for the Grand Servant. It seems they knew that the Umbrella Corporation was not to be trifled with. The waters of this company are a bit deeper than I imagined. At this moment, Luo Wei began to suspect that there might be a powerful figure behind the Umbrella Corporation that even Alea found troublesome, which was why they were hesitant to act against it. With this in mind, Luo Wei gradually began to take the Umbrella Corporation seriously. At first, Lo did not consider Umbrella Corporation as an opponent. It was just an ordinary multinational corporation. To the average person, Umbrella Corporation is a behemoth. But in the eyes of someone like Lo Wei, the Umbrella Corporation is nothing. If he weren't afraid that Umbrella Corporation would drag humanity down with them, Lo Wei would have already destroyed Umbrella Corporation and scattered its ashes. But now it seems I underestimated the Umbrella Corporation. This company is not as simple as I imagined. Perhaps he should ask Alea to see what Alea is hiding from him. After school, Lo returned to the Umbrella Corporation's Tokyo branch, found Hohenheim, and told him that he wanted to contact Alea. Although Hohenheim was already under Lo's command, he was still a heroic spirit who had come from Valhalla. Contacting Alea is really not a difficult thing. That night in his dream, Luo Wei saw Alea in the shape of a little girl once again. "You were looking for me." Luo Wei nodded. "Tell me, what exactly is the Umbrella Corporation like and who's behind it all?" "What do you mean?" Alea asked. "What are you pretending to be stupid for? I did some future predictions today." In the future, after the Umbrella Corporation was wiped out, it released a virus that targets men, resulting in only 5 men left in the world, and they are all demi-humans. In addition, I suddenly disappeared during the process and did not have time to save humanity. There are only 2 possibilities that could cause this. They are either trapped or restrained, unable to intervene to save humanity. But in my opinion, a mere umbrella company does not have that kind of power. So I suspect that there is someone behind Umbrella Corporation. It is precisely because of this person that you are hesitant to take action against the Umbrella Corporation and even willing to give me 5 heroic spirits. Tell me, who is this mysterious figure? Upon hearing this, Alea fell silent. Luo Wei wasn't in a hurry to urge them. He had already made his point clear. If Alea continued to conceal the truth, their cooperation might come to an end. However, Alea has already made a partial prepayment. After the partnership collapsed, it was impossible for Loe to return Medea and Hohenheim to him. Alea would never do such a losing business. Putting himself in her shoes, Luo Wei couldn't possibly do that, so he figured Alea would definitely say it. As it turned out, Lo's guess was absolutely correct. After a short silence, Alea spoke up. "There is indeed a dark force supporting the Umbrella Corporation, but this dark force is not human." Luo Wei asked curiously, "Not a person, who is it?" "It's a demon." Alea calmly said, "The top executives of Umbrella Corporation are all incredibly greedy. They sold their souls to the devil a long time ago. Therefore, even I have no way to grasp the souls of these people and find the location where they hid the virus. There is no way of knowing how much virus this group of people has in their possession or how many backup plans they have, because their souls have been protected by demons." Upon hearing this, Luo Wei suddenly realized what was going on. He had found it strange before, since Alea is supposed to be a human's restraining force, yet it couldn't even deal with a group of high-ranking members of Umbrella Corporation. At the time, he thought that the Umbrella Corporation's top management had used some means to deceive Alea's senses. Only now do I realize that they directly sided with the devil. Good grief, what a bunch of suicidal guys. Do you really think the devil runs a charity? Wait a minute, thinking about it carefully, it doesn't seem impossible. That depends on which anime series demon the higher-ups at Umbrella Corporation have sided with. If I'm talking about Ekai anime, then I love the most exciting ones, and if I'm talking about exciting anime, then I love the most Ekai ones. High School DxD. The demons there really don't seem like demons, but if it's a demon from another anime, then it's hard to say. After all, most demons aren't good people. Luo Wei rubbed his temples and asked, "Do you know who the devil behind Umbrella Corporation is?" Alea shook its head. Although it knew that the top executives of the Umbrella Corporation had sided with the demons, it did not know exactly which one or which force it was, because this guy is very well hidden and has never shown his face. Therefore, Alea had no way of knowing the true identities of these demons. Seeing this, Luo Wei couldn't help but click his tongue and say, "What a piece of trash." In the first timeline, the Umbrella Corporation had already slaughtered hundreds of millions of humans, causing the entire country to fall into chaos. You don't even know who's behind this. Calling you trash is giving you too much credit. However, this also proves one thing: the group of devils behind the Umbrella Corporation, or rather that devil is no pushover. Luo Wei squinted at Alea and said, "Now that we know the truth, let's talk about it." "What do you want to talk about?" Alea asked. "Are you playing dumb with me again?" Luo Wei glared at the other person, annoyed. "I treat you as a partner, but you treat me like a fool. Is that okay?" Alea remained silent. Luo Wei calmly said, "Since you are unwilling to say, then I will. Dealing with the Umbrella Corporation is different from dealing with demons. They cannot be confused. The former is a piece of cake for me, but the latter might be more troublesome. So, we have to pay more." In short, Lo Wei had only one idea. He wanted me to deal with the devil behind the Umbrella Corporation. But the problem is that 5 servants aren't enough. You need to add 5 more. If Alea had human emotions, it would definitely be amused and annoyed by Luo Wei's words. "You keep talking about 5 heroic spirits. Do you really think heroic spirits are as common as cabbages?" Although Alea does have several hundred heroic spirits, these heroic spirits are not as common as cabbages. Losing even one child was painful for Alea, and now Luo Wei actually wants 5 more. That's outrageous. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Wouldn't Alea reject this without even a second thought? But Luo Wei smiled and did some calculations for Alea. The evil behind Umbrella Corporation is clearly aimed at humanity. If Umbrella Corporation's plan succeeds, at least half or even more of the world's population will die. And you yourself will suffer unprecedented damage. Do you think these are not worth 5 heroic spirits? Alea had to admit that Luo Wei was right. The Umbrella Corporation has ill intentions and it has a devilish backer behind it. Dealing with the Umbrella Corporation is easy, but the demons behind it are much more troublesome. Especially since this guy was hiding in the shadows and he didn't even know who the other party was. This makes things even more complicated. If I am truly severely wounded, who will benefit from the spirits of the fallen in Valhalla? Only heaven knows. However, Alea was reluctant to give Luo Wei 5 more heroic spirits, since giving away even one would mean losing one less, and he truly couldn't bear to part with them. Luo Wei looked at Alea with a calm and composed expression, fully aware of Alea's current predicament. To put it bluntly, Alea is completely under his control. No matter who comes, it won't work. After hesitating for a long time, Alea finally lowered her head in the face of life and death and said with a sense of grievance, "I agree. After it is done, you can choose 5 more heroic spirits. That's more like it," Luo Wei said with a smile. "There's a saying among humans, those who understand the times are the heroes. I think you, Alea, are an unprecedented hero." Alea said expressionlessly, "Don't think I don't know that this is an insult to me." Then, he turned and left, disappearing from Lovey's dream in the blink of an eye. Luo Wei didn't take it seriously. After seeing Alea off, he left the dream and returned to reality. The sun shines down and a new day has begun. After eating the breakfast that Irina Nakiri had carefully prepared for him, Lovey used magic to create a phantom clone to go to school in his place. Then, with leisurely steps, I arrived at the Tokyo branch of Umbrella Corporation. He summoned Medea and Hohenheim to his office. To be precise, it's the office of the CEO of Umbrella Corporation's Tokyo branch, that is, the person in charge. However, the CEO was hypnotized by Lo Wei and sent to clean the toilets, so the office fell into Lo Wei's hands. I spoke with Alea last night, and Alea told me that the top executives of Umbrella Corporation have sold their souls to the devil. Therefore, the people standing behind the Umbrella Corporation are devils. Those who want to destroy humanity are also demons. Upon hearing Loe's words, both Hohenheim and Medea frowned simultaneously. In their minds, demons are no good. It's not surprising that these people, who seem to thrive on chaos, would want to destroy humanity. No wonder Alea was hesitant to act against the Umbrella Corporation, even going so far as to offer herself to Lo Wei so that he could deal with the Umbrella Corporation. So that's how it was. Hohenheim asked, "Did Alea tell you, boss, who the devil behind the Umbrella Corporation is?" Luo Wei sighed and said, "I asked, but Alea doesn't know either." Medea couldn't help but laugh. Humanity is on the verge of extinction, and Alea, as a suppressive force, doesn't even know who the enemy is. What a ridiculous joke. Is human self-control really this weak? Hohenheim was having a headache. He had thought he was only dealing with the Umbrella Corporation, but he hadn't expected to be dealing with the devil. This is much more difficult to deal with than a company. So what should we do next? Luo Wei said, "Don't worry, demons like humans are not monolithic. We can find other demons to deal with the demons behind Umbrella Corporation." Hohenheim was taken aback. "Boss, you really are a demon. I don't know them, but I know where to find them." When Luo Wei came to the Umbrella Corporation today, he specifically went online to check and found a Kuo town in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, and a Kuo Academy in that city. I'm very familiar with this Luo Wei. In fact, when Alea told Luo Wei that there was a devil behind the Umbrella Corporation, Luo Wei wondered if this world might also have been stitched together with one of my favorite Ekai anime. Now, after investigation, it turns out they've been admitted. What else is there to say? Let's go to Kuo Academy. You're coming with me on a business trip today. An hour later, Ro arrived in Kuo town with Medea and Hohenheim and found Kuo Academy. Standing at the school gate, Medea's eyes gleamed as she keenly sensed that the school seemed to be filled with inhuman auras. She asked curiously, "Boss, how did you know that the person we're looking for is here?" Luo Wei said, "Would you believe me if I said I've watched anime?" Medea was completely bewildered. What did watching anime even mean? Without explaining, Luo Wei led the two into the school in a swaggering manner. Medea casually unleashed a reconnaissance spell. The ordinary people at Kuo Academy felt nothing, but the demons keenly sensed the fluctuations in magical power. A red-haired girl frowned, got up, made an excuse and left the classroom. He ran into his queen as soon as he stepped out of the classroom. Upon reaching the stairwell, he encountered his friend Sona Shitori, the student council president of Kyo Academy. It seems we've thought of the same thing, Riaz. Then let's see who this B********* D is who has broken into the school. The red-haired demon, Riaz Gremory, smiled slightly and said this. So, the group of people walked together and encountered the uninvited guests who had broken into the Kamo Academy at the main gate of the teaching building. When Lovey first saw Riaz Gremory, he couldn't help but sigh again. High school students these days are developing so well. Erina Nakiri is like this, Hana Yurikawa is like this, Siko Busujima is like this, and Riaz is like this too. If the latter is a demon, then it's probably someone who was born with good nutrition. The first three are likely to have overdeveloped. God knows how those three developed. Seeing that Lovey's gaze lingered on her chest for a few seconds, Riaz did not get angry. Instead, she proudly puffed out her chest. I should say good morning, sir. Aren't you going to introduce yourself? Hajime Akino, standing beside her, also had a smile on her face. But Luo Wei could sense that the other party had become more vigilant and could launch a fatal attack at any moment. Medea glanced at Hajime Akino, smiled slightly and said, "Calm down, little girl, don't be too nervous." If she wanted to, she could easily defeat Hajime Akino. Even if the other party is a hybrid of a fallen angel and a demon, it doesn't matter. Luo Wei nodded with a smile. That's right, don't be too nervous. We're not here to cause trouble. Can we find a place to have a detailed discussion? Riaz also felt this wasn't the place to talk and calmly said, in that case, come with me. Then he brought Luo Wei and the others to his own club. Jai Kangna followed closely behind. Within the club, Lo plopped down on the large sofa with Medea and Hohenheim sitting beside him. Riaz and Shiki Sona sat opposite him. As for Hajime Akino, after making a cup of tea for Lovey, Medea, and Hohenheim, she stood behind Riaz. Riaz said, now can you tell us your identities and purpose, unknown guests? Lovey nodded. My name is Lovey, this is Medea, and this is Paracelsus von Hohenheim. Leaving aside the name Lovey, the names Medea and Paracelsus von Hohenheim are undoubtedly household names. Medea, in particular, was a witch from the mythological era and a disciple of the god of magic. However, Riaz doesn't believe that the two people in front of her are the real deal. They are more likely descendants who have given their ancestors' names to their ancestors. She had vaguely heard of this style somewhere before. Seeing Riaz's gaze, Lovey immediately understood and said with a smile, don't misunderstand, those two aren't imposters from the hero faction but the real deal. Jai Kang was taken aback then said, are you kidding me? Those two people are long dead, okay. Although she didn't say the second half of her sentence, everyone understood what she meant. Lovey said, since you are demons, you should know about so-called heroic spirits. Riaz and Sona Shito are nobles among demons, one from the Gremory family and the other from the City family, so how could they not know what a heroic spirit is? The two of them immediately looked at Medea and Hohenheim with disbelief. The legendary betrayal witch and alchemist have actually descended to Earth. This is unbelievable. Myths becoming reality is a valid example. Although they are both demons from mythology, they are ultimately demons of the new generation, and those myths and legends are too distant for them. Therefore, this was the first time they had ever seen a legendary figure. But good family education helped them calm down immediately. We never expected that the two legendary figures would grace us with their presence. It truly honors our humble abode. So, what brings you two here? Although she kept saying two people, Riaz's gaze fell on Lovey, because she could tell that Luo Wei was the center of the trio. This also made her very curious. Lo was undoubtedly an unknown name, but how did he become the leader of this team, with even Medea and Hohenheim willingly playing second fiddle? It's truly unbelievable. Could this name be a fake name? Luo Wei said, we came to you to ask the demons behind you whether you intend to wage war against humanity and against Alea. Riaz was completely bewildered and didn't understand. What does this sentence mean? The literal meaning. Luo Wei knew how to seize the initiative by throwing out a shocking piece of news, which utterly crushed the other side and allowed him to completely take control of the conversation. Now, Riaz is undoubtedly panicking. Jai Kangna forced himself to calm down. What makes you say that, Lord Luo Wei? You guys should know about the Umbrella Corporation, right? Lo said. Shiki Sona frowned and said, I remember this company is a world-class company, right? Riaz nodded. And it's a biopharmaceutical company. The two demons had lived on Earth for quite some time and had a certain understanding of human nature. They had naturally heard of the Umbrella Corporation, which was so famous. Luo Wei said, the company's top management has sold their souls to you demons and become your lackeys. At the demons' request, they are frantically researching a virus for humans. Just recently, people from the Umbrella Corporation injected a virus called the Blacklight virus into the Tokoname City Water Company, which then used the tap water to reach thousands of households. Based on our projections of the future, this virus will soon cause a complete outbreak. 1 month later, Tokyo fell. 6 months later, Japan fell. Hundreds of millions of humans will turn into zombies, and even some demons will be infected by the zombies, and the entire country of Japan will be turned into a living hell. The two demons, Sona and Riaz, were dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? If this guy's Umbrella Corporation is this crazy, he's actually turning Japan into hell. That's outrageous. They did not doubt what Luo Wei said. Although future vision is rare, it is not non-existent. Among the demons, there are quite a few who can see the future. However, very few people are proficient in this kind of magic. Seeing the silence of Riaz and Sona, Lovey continued, because we discovered it early, we paid a huge price to eliminate the virus and planned to take action against Umbrella Corporation's rivals. But then things changed. After the Umbrella Corporation was eliminated, the demons behind them unleashed a completely new virus. This virus specifically targets men, so in the future, most of the men in the world will die out. Only 5 demi-humans escaped the calamity. So we've come here today to ask if you demons are planning a full-scale war with humanity. Riaz, Akino Heimjima, and the demons, including Sora Shido, were stunned by Lovey's words. Did something this outrageous happen in the future? Either neon lights fall or all men are wiped out. Thinking about it carefully, it really does resemble the behavior of a demon who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. But why? Riaz and Sona Shitorik didn't quite understand why the demons were doing this. What grudge did they have against humans that they would go to such lengths to destroy them? Riaz said with a solemn expression, I don't know about this matter, but I believe that we demons would never do such a heinous thing. There must be some misunderstanding here, so please give me a moment so I can contact the higher-ups in the demons and find out the specifics. Okay, Luo Wei nodded. Although Riaz Gremory is the next head of the Gremory family, she is ultimately just the next head. She is still too young and not a high-ranking member of the demons. We definitely need to contact the higher-ups in the demons. How long will it take you? I will contact you as soon as possible and give you an answer tonight. No problem. Ro stood up and Medea and Hohenheim followed suit. I'll stay in Kyoto town for now and wait for your good news. Riaz nodded. Ro, accompanied by his 2 subordinates, left Kyoto Academy and began strolling through the streets. Medea asked curiously, Boss, can those 2 young demons you found solve the problem? Ro said, those 2 demons are no good, but the people behind them are. Riaz Gremory has a demon lord-level older brother behind her, and Shiki Sona also has a demon lord-level older sister behind her. Medea was somewhat surprised that the 2 young devils had such a background. No wonder the boss brought them here. It turns out the boss wasn't after the 2 young devils at all, but rather the person behind them. The 2 little devils were merely a bridge to start a conversation. Boss, I have a question. You seem to know them very well. I guess so. Why? Medea asked, Boss, why do you know so much about these 2 demons? Medea's womanly intuition told her that Loey understood the 2 women's peculiar tastes. Maybe he just sees her as pretty and is attracted to her body, which is why he knows so much about her. If Lovey knew Medea's thoughts, he would surely tell her that she had a keen eye for people. He was indeed very lusting after the bodies of these demons. After all, they were so well developed. Upon hearing Medea's question, Lovey hesitated for a moment before replying, because I'm interested in them, I looked into it. Medea, boss, you're really honest. Ah, that's right, I am such an honest and reliable young man. Luo Weishin said shamelessly, Medea. Time flies like an arrow. That evening, Lovey, Medea, and Hohenheim found a park and enjoyed dinner served by Irina Nakiri and her secretary, just as the 3 of them were enjoying their meal. A magic circle unfolded in front of the 3 people, and with a beam of light, Riaz stepped out of the magic circle. Excuse me for disturbing you all. Our demon realm has dispatched 2 high-ranking officials to discuss the Umbrella Corporation matter with you 2. I wonder if you 2 have time to discuss it in detail. Sure. Luo Wei nodded with a smile, but we'll have to wait until after we finish this dinner. Without hesitation, Riaz replied, okay. Luo Wei picked up a piece of steak, chewed a few times, and asked seemingly casually, I wonder who the high-ranking officials the demons sent this time are. Riaz said, it is the Grand Duke of the Gremory family, one of the 72 pillars, the most trusted minister of His Majesty the Demon King, and also my brother, Surzech Gremory, and the Grand Duke of the City family, Seraph City. Upon hearing this, a strange light flashed in Luo Wei's eyes. If he remembered correctly, in high school DxD, both Surzech and Seraph were demon lords. Sazek inherited Lucifer's name. Seraph inherited the name Leviathan. The reason for this is that in the war between gods and demons, the god of the Bible and the four demon kings died. Therefore, when Sazex and Seraph reached the level of Demon Lord, they inherited the name of Demon Lord and became the new generation of Demon Lords. However, in this crossover anime world, the Demon King doesn't seem to have died in battle. Therefore, neither Sazex nor Seraph have inherited the position of Demon King. They are currently only Grand Dukes. At the same time, Lovey also noticed that Riaz had just mentioned the demon realm, not the underworld. In High School DxD, the demons actually live in the underworld, but now it has become the demon realm. This indicates that this crossover anime world not only incorporates High School DxD, an anime related to demons, but also likely incorporates other anime series related to demons. This led to a huge change in the plot of High School DxD. Luo Wei wasn't quite sure what the specific changes were. I'll find an opportunity to learn more about the demon realm later, maybe then I'll find out. Afterwards, the three of them quickly finished their dinner and returned to Kyo Academy with Riaz. They returned to Riaz's club. Two powerful demons, and others who had been waiting inside the guild for a long time. When Seraph saw Ro and his group enter, she said with a hint of displeasure, "Making a lady wait is not the behavior of a gentleman." Luo Wei nodded in deep agreement. "Indeed, it was my mistake to make the elderly lady wait for me. I will be more careful next time." You. Seraph was immediately enraged. Even demons care about their age, let alone Seraph, who looks very young. Being suddenly called Grandma immediately broke my defenses. Upon hearing this, Shiki Sona, who was standing next to her, couldn't help but chuckle. This was the first time she had ever seen her older sister so furious. This is so new, Kangna. Seeing her younger sister teasing her, Seraph stamped her foot in displeasure. "If you keep doing this, I'm going to get angry. What's the point of someone who's hundreds of years old acting cute?" Luo Wei said in a gloomy tone. Sona felt that Luo Wei was practically her mouth double. She had long disliked her sister's attitude, but dared not speak out because the other woman was her sister. Now she just wants Lovey to say a few words. On the other hand, Seraph broke down again, and in her anger, she almost punched Ro away. Sazex smiled wryly, stopping Seraph from about to go berserk, and squinted at Ro. "You seem to have a lot of opinions about us demons." Luo Wei said frankly, "You demons are planning to exterminate humanity, so why can't I have some opinions about demons?" Sazex said frankly, "I think you misunderstand. We demons have no intention of exterminating humanity." "Oh, what do you think of the Umbrella Corporation's actions?" "It's just the private actions of a group of demons," Sazex said without hesitation, "just like some extremists among humans who like to do bizarre things. In fact, there are similar beings among demons as well, but their individual actions cannot represent the evil as a whole. I swear on the honor of Grand Duke Gremory, we demons have never intended to exterminate humanity. Although humanity as a whole is not as powerful as demons, there are indeed some people among humanity who defy common sense. Moreover, the Hall of Heroes in the hands of the counterforce Alea also contains many heroic spirits that demons should be wary of. It wouldn't be a good thing if humanity really went to war with demons. At that time, the angels will definitely join forces with humans to attack the demon realm. At that point, the demons will be attacked from two sides. This kind of thing is absolutely not allowed." Therefore, he immediately assured Ro that the demons did not have such intentions, thus dispelling humanity's hostility towards the demons. Ro raised an eyebrow and looked at Sazex. "You're quite the smooth talker." Seraph scoffed, "Not everyone is as tactless as you." She's still bothered by what Luo Wei just said. Luo Wei scoffed and said, "Since you demons don't intend to exterminate humanity, can you tell me who the demons behind the Umbrella Corporation are?" Sazex said, "There's not enough time yet, and we haven't fully investigated who the devil behind Umbrella Corporation is, but we have a general idea." "Tell me about it," Luo Wei said hesitantly. Sazex said, "It's Lezavim Leviathan Lucifer, the radical leader of the demon race." Lovey knew this guy. He was the leader of the Calamity Gang in High School DxD. He is also the strongest transcendent being born from the original demon king Lucifer and the mother of demons, Lilith. The figure recorded in the Bible under the name Li Lin was extremely frivolous and cold-hearted. He had once lost all interest in everything around him, but after learning of the existence of another world, he became determined to invade it. To this end, he created an avatar of Orpheus and resurrected the evil dragon, and even attempted to awaken the beast King 666, who was sealed by the god in the Bible, in order to deal with the Great Red. Later, with the help of the infinite dragon god Orpheus, Hyodu Ise transformed into a dragon god. In his dragon god form, Hyaudu Ise unleashed infinite power that surpassed the limit of nullification, defeating Lesuan Leviathan Lucifer. He was then killed by Fafnir. But at the same time, he used his own soul to awaken the Beast King 666. Lucifer. Luo Wei pretended not to have heard of this person's name and calmly asked, "What is this person's relationship with the Demon King Lucifer?" Sazek said, "This man is the son of His Majesty Lucifer, and also the most hostile demon to humanity, who has tried to exterminate humanity countless times. However, His Majesty Lucifer thwarted his plan. So a long time ago, this Lezevim broke with His Majesty Lucifer and attempted to defeat him and ascend to the throne of the Demon King. But he was no match for His Majesty the Demon King. Instead, he was defeated by His Majesty the Demon King and imprisoned in the Demon Realm's prison. Not long ago, a riot broke out in the Demon Realm prison. After the riot, Lezevim disappeared, and many demons speculated that he had been rescued by his own men. Therefore, we suspect that the devil behind the Umbrella Corporation is very likely Lesuium. Even if it wasn't him, it's still inextricably linked to him." Upon hearing this, Medea couldn't help but ask out of curiosity, "May I ask why this Lezevim is so obsessed with destroying humanity? What deep-seated grudge does he have against humankind?" Sazex gave a wry smile and said, "No, no," Sazex nodded. "In fact, Lezevim has no anxiety with humans, nor does he have any deep-seated hatred towards them." Hohenheim asked, puzzled, "Then why did he want to destroy humanity?" Sazex said, "Lesuium's goal in wanting to exterminate humanity was actually to sever the faith in the heavens. If the angel race loses its faith, its strength will decline. At that time, he can lead the demon race to defeat the angel race, thus becoming the strongest race in the three realms and even dominate the three realms." Medea suddenly realized, so he's an ambitious man. Sazex had no rebuttal. Because everything Lesuium did was for his own ambition. After listening to these words in silence, Luo Wei calmly asked, "Where is this Lesuium now?" Sazex shook his head. Seraph said, "Actually, we are also looking for Lezevim. After escaping from the Demon Realm's prison, no one has seen him since. Many demons suspect that Lezevim has left the Demon Realm and entered the human world." After Riaz and Kasuk told us about the Umbrella Corporation, we began to suspect that the devil behind the Umbrella Corporation was Lezevim. Destroying humanity has always been what he wanted to do. Medea thought this made sense. A demon who wanted to destroy humanity had escaped from the Demon Realm. The evil behind the Umbrella Corporation aims to destroy humanity. No matter how you look at it, this doesn't seem like a coincidence. Hohenheim asked, "May I ask, how strong is this Lesuium?" Sazex said, "Lezevim is the son of His Majesty Lucifer, inheriting His Majesty Lucifer's bloodline. He is truly gifted, and his strength is second only to His Majesty Lucifer. In the Demon Realm, there are only a handful of demons who can defeat Lezevim. This is also why Lesuium can absorb a large number of demons to join his ranks, because demons have always worshipped the strong and revered strength." Hohenheim frowned. This was troublesome. A powerful demon with a group of followers has begun researching a virus to exterminate humanity. This guy is tough to deal with. If they cannot be killed in one blow, humanity will inevitably face the full force of these demons' revenge. This is not a good thing. "Boss, what should we do now?" Upon hearing Hohenheim's question, Lo clicked his tongue, scratched his head, and said, "In my opinion, Lezevim's strength is negligible, and defeating him should not be a problem. The problem is that this guy has been hiding in the shadows and has not revealed his location. This is very troublesome. After all, there's no such thing as being able to thief for 1,000 days, but not being able to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. I can't spend every single day of the year searching for Lesuium. This is the real headache for Lo Wei." Sazex and Seraph couldn't help but exchange a glance. Even the two of them dared not underestimate Lesuim's strength, and whether they could win was still an unknown. After all, this is His Majesty Lucifer's own son. But in Lovey's eyes, this infamous demon seemed utterly vulnerable. "Is it confidence or arrogance?" Just then Sazex said, "Leave Lesuium's whereabouts to us." Seraph nodded. "We entered the human world this time on the orders of His Majesty Lucifer to find Lezevim and bring him back to hell. We demons understand demons better than you humans do." Sazex said, "If the devil behind Umbrella Corporation is really Lesuium, we will definitely find him." A slight smile appeared on Luo Wei's lips. That was exactly what he meant by "I'm going to fight." Humans seek out demons, but demons are more professional at finding demons. This is why Lovey came to find Riaz and Sona. Isn't the goal simply to find the higher-ups in the demons through them, and then force them to find the mastermind behind the Umbrella Corporation? Now that the plan has succeeded, it's time to retreat into the background and watch the demons fight amongst themselves. Very well, then thank you for your help, Mr. Sazex, Miss Seraph. Luo Wei stood up and shook hands with the two men in turn. If you need anything, please let me know at any time and I will cooperate with you. Also, if you find Lesbium, could you please let me know? I'm quite interested in this demon that's trying to destroy humanity. Sazex calmly replied, okay. After thanking the two demons once again, Ro left with Medea and Hohenheim. Now that the goal has been achieved, there's no point in staying here. It was time to leave naturally. On the other hand, after Sazex and Seraph saw off Ro and his group, the smiles on their faces gradually disappeared. Seraph suddenly said, "This person is very powerful. I couldn't test his strength just now." Sazex nodded and said, "Indeed, unfathomable." Just now, while they were shaking hands with Luo Wei, they subtly probed Luo Wei's strength. In the end, nothing was discovered. In their eyes, Lo was simply unfathomable. Riaz and Sona were both stunned. Riaz couldn't help but ask, "Brother, Lady Seraph, is that human really that powerful?" Sazex said, "When I saw him, I felt like I was seeing His Majesty Lucifer. When did such a powerful monster appear in the human camp? This matter must be reported to His Majesty Lucifer." Seraph nodded. "Yes, I agree, but..." Sona asked curiously, "But what, sister?" Seraphim said, "But is such a powerful creature really human?" On the other hand, after Ro left Kuo Academy, Medea, who was following behind Luo Wei, asked curiously, "When the boss shook hands with them just now, was it to test their strength?" Luo Wei didn't hide anything. "I do have that idea." Medea asked, "Have you tested out the bosses? How strong are they?" "Very strong." Ro's eyes flickered as he said, "If we were to describe it in numerical terms, Seraph's combat power would be around several 100,000, while Sazex's would be 1,000,000. Keep in mind that Rihan Nura's fighting power is only 10,000. Even after absorbing the power of his companions, he can unleash powerful combat strength using the ghost binding technique. It's only 100,000. Seraph could easily crush this guy. Sazex is even stronger than Seraph, truly befitting their status as two demon lords in the original story. That's really strong. Medea had never heard such a comparison before and asked, "Then what about me? In the eyes of the boss, what is my combat power?" Luo Wei thought for a moment and said, "When it first arrived, it was probably around 10 or 20,000. After signing a contract with me, it was around 50 or 60,000. Medea pointed at Hohenheim. "Where's this guy?" Luo Wei said, "I've enhanced Hohenheim. It's worth around 100,000. "And what about you, boss?" Luo Wei didn't speak but held up one finger. "Also 1,000,000, Medea asked. Luo Wei rolled his eyes. "It's 100,000,000, 100,000,000, okay, 1,000,000, you underestimate me like that." Medea chuckled, "I haven't underestimated you, boss." Although not underestimated, the figure of 100,000,000 still exceeded Medea's imagination. If Sazex really does have the strength of a demon king, as his boss said, he certainly wouldn't be inferior to his teacher, the goddess of magic Hecate. Doesn't this mean that one's teacher's combat power is also around 1,000,000? It might be a little higher, but it shouldn't exceed 2,000,000. Luo Wei is worth 100,000,000. Doesn't this mean that one's boss can easily crush one's teacher? What about Zeus? Could he easily crush him as well? Even a god king of a pantheon is no match for his own boss. Isn't that a bit too exaggerated? Medea felt a strong sense of disbelief and disbelief. Is my boss a little too powerful? Is this guy really human? Could his true identity be the legendary Great Red? Perhaps only the true Crimson Dragon God Emperor, whom all pantheons considered invincible, the Great Red, possessed such power. But no matter how she looked at it, Luo Wei didn't seem like a dragon at all. Medea was completely baffled. Where did this ridiculously powerful guy come from? She had never heard of him before. In fact, not only Medea but Hohenheim also had similar ideas. As for Luo Wei, he had absolutely no intention of explaining to the two of them. How should I put it? That I'm not actually from this world but a transmigrator with cheat codes. Even if they did tell, would the two people believe it? More importantly, Lo Wei didn't intend to tell anyone about his cheat code. After leaving Kamao Town, Lo returned to Tokyo that same day. Upon arriving in Tokyo, I heard a prayer in my ear. "Lord Lo, this is the money I earned today, please accept it." Luo Wei recognized the voice. It belonged to none other than Aoyama Nanami, the believer he had recently taken in and a working warrior. The next second, dozens of banknotes worth tens of thousands of yuan appeared in Luo Wei's hands. It's about 300,000 yen. This is no small sum. Converted to RMB, it's about 15,000. It's important to know that Luo Wei and Aoyama Nanami split the profits 50-50, and Aoyama Nanami gave Luo Wei 300,000 yen, which means she still had 300,000 yen in her possession. At this time, only a few days had passed since Aoyama Nanami became his follower. Aoyama Nanami has already made so much money. That's quite an improvement. He originally thought that it would take Aoyama Nanami a few more days to make a breakthrough. Now it seems I underestimated Aoyama Nanami. As expected of a working warrior, her work skills are not to be underestimated. But at that moment, another idea suddenly popped into Luo Wei's mind. Did Aoyama Nanami really split himself in half? What if this guy gives away 80% of his income to himself? Given her personality, it doesn't seem like something impossible. Lo Wei's eyes flickered, and he suddenly decided to go see Aoyama Nanami. So he said to Medea and Hohenheim, "You two go back to the Umbrella Corporation branch first, I'll be there later." Medea and Hohenheim nodded and parted ways with Ro. Luo Wei went to find Aoyama Nanami. As his own follower, it wouldn't be too difficult for Luo Wei to find Aoyama Nanami. Not long after, he found Aoyama Nanami at a massage parlor. Kindness? Upon seeing the massage parlor, Luo Wei was taken aback. He hadn't expected that after quitting her job at the convenience store, Aoyama Nanami would actually come to work at a massage parlor. For a moment, he didn't know how to complain. How much money can you make working for someone else these days? If you want to make big money, you have to be your own boss. Nanami, do you even understand this principle? Luo Wei was both amused and exasperated. He pushed open the door and walked into the massage parlor, only to find that there was only one person inside. That is Aoyama and the Seven Seas. Lord Luo Wei. Aoyama Nanami was taken aback when she saw Luo Wei arrive. She hadn't expected that Luo Wei would actually appear here. Luo Wei glanced around the massage parlor. His first impression was that it was shabby, extremely shabby. This massage parlor is nowhere near as good as those high-end massage parlors. To give an analogy, one is like a legitimate establishment, while the other is like a shady brothel. Furthermore, it seemed that only Aoyama Nanami was in the shop, and Luo Wei vaguely understood something. "Nanami, you didn't own this shop, did you?" Aoyama Nanami smiled shyly and said, "I'm sorry for making you laugh, Lord Lovey. The implication is clear, he admits that he owns the shop." Luo Wei was somewhat surprised. Although the shop was very simple, this was Tokyo after all, although it wasn't Ginza or Shinjuku, places with extremely high foot traffic. But the foot traffic here is also quite good. I really don't know how Aoyama Nanami managed to open this store. Is this guy that rich? However, in the original story, Aoyama Nanami worked various odd jobs in pursuit of her dream of becoming a voice actress, so she didn't seem like a rich person. It seems the plot has taken another turn. Luo Wei pulled up a chair and sat down, then began to ask Aoyama Nanami how she had managed to open this massage parlor. As it happened, Aoyama Nanami also wanted to confide in Luo Wei, so he told Luo Wei about his entrepreneurial experience. After becoming a follower of Lovey and mastering extraordinary powers, Aoyama Nanami decided to make money following the path Lovey had indicated. So she decisively quit all her jobs and decided to open a massage parlor. However, when she took stock of the money she had saved over the years, she unsurprisingly found that it was far from enough to open a shop. So how can I earn enough money to start my business? After much deliberation, Aoyama Nanami decided to take out a loan. With extraordinary power as a guarantee, Aoyama Nanami was absolutely confident that his massage parlor would be a huge success. As long as the massage parlor can be opened, it will definitely make money. Even if it's a loan, it can be repaid. So Aoyama Nanami went to the bank, intending to borrow money from it. The problem is that, as an ordinary high school student with neither property nor collateral, she has no way of getting a loan from a bank. Just when the plan was about to fall through, a bank employee gave Aoyama Nanami a way out. She can get loans from private institutions. This is what is known as usury. To be honest, Aoyama Nanami is very opposed to loan sharks. Although she was just a high school student, she knew that this thing was a huge hole. Once you fall in, climbing out is not an easy task. Therefore, Aoyama Nanami refused. However, at this point, the bank staff gave Aoyama Nanami another option. The reason he was so eager to help Aoyama Nanami was because he had tried Aoyama Nanami's massage. The taste was absolutely wonderful. Therefore, the bank staff believed that Aoyama Nanami was absolutely capable of succeeding. The problem is he was just a bank employee, not the bank manager. There is no way to violate regulations. After all, Aoyama Nanami was truly penniless and had nothing, so he didn't meet the requirements for a bank loan at all. However, he also felt that Aoyama's skills were amazing, which is why he offered Aoyama Nanami advice. The reason I'm introducing loan sharks is because it's the fastest way to make money. Moreover, the loan shark he introduced had a good reputation, and Aoyama Kihai was definitely capable of repaying the loan within 6 months. However, this path was rejected by Aoyama Nanami. So he pointed out another way out for Aoyama Nanami, haunted house tester. Beikacho in Tokyo is a place where murders are frequent. When some people die in their houses, the house prices plummet. Even if you rent a place, you might not be able to rent it out. Thus, the profession of haunted house tester came into being. After a tester stays here for a few days, the real estate agent will secretly switch the rooms and tell the next guest that the previous occupant was a vibrant high school girl. They didn't mention a word about the previous guest who died here. In this way, the house will be rented out at a normal price. Aoyama Nanami's eyes lit up when she heard about this way out. Having become a follower of Lo Wei and mastered extraordinary powers, she is not even afraid of evil spirits, so why would she be afraid of a haunted house? Is this a joke? This job is perfect for me. Aoyama Nanami immediately declared that she wanted to sleep in the most haunted house. Seeing how confident Aoyama Nanami was, the bank staff helped him contact people at the real estate company. Although banks and real estate companies are two completely different types of companies, they have dealt with each other quite a few times. It could even be said to be quite frequent. That's why bank staff have the real estate company's phone number. That noon, thanks to the efforts of the bank staff, Aoyama Nanami met with the real estate company representatives. He was a middle-aged man in his 40s, not the kind of seasoned office worker. Instead, he was a middle-aged man who looked honest and unassuming. It is said that Aoyama Nanami wants to become a haunted house tester, and the real estate company agreed without hesitation. Baika Town needs someone like that. Especially for female high school students like Nanami Aoyama, the value of houses that have been slept in by them will increase by a few cents. He would welcome such people as haunted house testers. Unfortunately, most of these high school students are not very brave and dare not move into a haunted house, not to mention being a haunted house tester. Aoyama Nanami can be described as an outlier among outliers. The universities there are already scrambling to accept the offer. How could they possibly refuse? However, when the middle-aged man from the real estate company learned that Aoyama Nanami wanted the most haunted house, he was immediately taken aback. He blurted out instinctively, "You can't sleep in that house, people can really die there." This made Aoyama Nanami very curious. Is there something wrong with that house? The real estate company representative said cautiously, "That's not just any haunted house, it's a haunted house that's been haunted for ages. None of those who entered the Siki family are still alive. Everyone is dead." Upon hearing this, Luo Wei couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Siki's house, which Siki residence? Could it be the Siki residence I've been imagining? Good heavens, could it be that even the Juon has been stitched into this world? If it really is the Siki residence I imagined. The image of Aoyama Nanami battling Siki Kayako involuntarily flashed into Luo Wei's mind. Thinking about it carefully, it actually seems quite appealing. As for whether Aoyama Nanami can defeat Siki Kayako, Luo Wei thinks there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Aoyama Nanami is, after all, one of his followers. There's no way he couldn't defeat an evil spirit. Even if this evil spirit is called Kayako. No matter how powerful an evil spirit is, it can't possibly be a match for its own followers. Do you really think that the power of light it bestowed upon the Green Mountains and Seven Seas is only for massage? Exorcism works just as well. So did you go? Ro asked with a hint of anticipation. However, Aoyama Nanami shook her head and said no. Why? Luo Wei was very curious, and a sense of disappointment welled up inside him. Aoyama Nanami told the curious Luo Wei that the middle-aged real estate agent was afraid of killing Aoyama Nanami, so he refused to introduce the Siki house to Aoyama Nanami. Oh my god. This person is actually quite nice. In short, because this honest middle-aged man disagreed, the scenario that Lo Wei had hoped for, the battle between Aoyama Nanami and Kayako, did not ultimately happen. Instead, the other party introduced Aoyama Nanami to another haunted house. By the way, this haunted house is located in Baika Town. After sleeping in the haunted house for a few days, Aoyama Nanami successfully received her reward. It's about 500,000 yen. Another point worth mentioning is that although a murder occurred in this haunted house, there are no evil spirits present. This surprised Aoyama Nanami somewhat. Since becoming a follower of Loi, Aoyama Nanami has seen the real world. While the evil spirits on the streets may not be countless, they are certainly everywhere. So she genuinely believed that haunted houses where murders had occurred might harbor evil spirits. It turned out that the haunted house was completely empty. There wasn't a single evil spirit, not even a shadow of one, and there were far fewer evil spirits than on the streets. It was a huge disappointment. To be honest, after receiving the 500,000 yen, Aoyama Nanami even felt that the money was a bit too hot to handle. Making money is too easy. She felt like it was all a little unreal. This is the money that Aoyama Nanami earned after becoming a follower of Lovey. Originally, this money should have been split equally with Lovey. However, considering that he still needed to open his own shop, Aoyama Nanami withheld the money, then recorded on paper. Subsequently, Aoyama Nanami used the reward money, along with the money she had saved over the years, to rent a rather cheap haunted house in Baeka Town and convert it into a massage parlor. Upon hearing this, Luo Wei finally realized that this massage parlor was actually a haunted house. More importantly, this is Baeka Town, where the Grim Reaper is said to roam. When Luo Wei arrived, he didn't notice this at all. He only wanted to find Aoyama Nanami, but he didn't expect to end up in the territory of the Grim Reaper. Of course, the Grim Reaper mentioned here is not the Grim Reaper in the traditional sense. Instead, it's the Grim Reaper of the second dimension, Conan. It's worth mentioning, however, that Shinichi Kyudo is still active in major newspapers and on television, showing no signs of shrinking. This means that the story of Detective Conan has not yet begun. Therefore, Baeka Town's crime rate has not yet started to spiral towards Gotham's level. Even so, the crime rate in Baeka Town remains high. Otherwise, Aoyama Nanami wouldn't have been able to rent a storefront so cheaply and convert it into a massage parlor. Despite its simple appearance, the business here is quite good. This was also thanks to the strong recommendations from the bank staff and the room company staff. Both of them received massages from Aoyama Nanami during their interactions, and they were completely convinced of her massage skills. So when Aoyama Nanami opened this simple massage parlor, the two of them brought in a large number of customers for him. They were mostly my colleagues. At first, people looked down on this simple massage parlor. However, after experiencing Aoyama Nanami's massage, their attitudes completely changed, and they were full of praise for Aoyama Nanami's massage skills. On its first day of operation, Aoyama Nanami earned 400,000 yen. Then he kept a portion of it and gave the remaining 300,000 to Luo Wei. After understanding the situation, Luo Wei couldn't help but say, "I have to criticize you for this, Nanami. Didn't we already agree to a 50-50 split?" "That's right, it's a 50-50 split." Before Luo Wei could finish speaking, Aoyama Nanami excitedly interrupted, "Has my lord forgotten? This is the second money I've earned since becoming your follower. The first sum of money was 500,000 yen, which I earned as a haunted house tester. According to the agreement with you, I was supposed to pay you 250,000 yen, but I didn't pay you because I needed the money to open the shop. Now that I've made money, I naturally have to make up for this debt."